Chapter 196. The large table in the conference room was densely filled with all kinds of medicinal herbs. 10 kinds of medicinal herbs were already quite a lot, but there were several fake ones for each of them. Moreover, at a glance, the real ones were almost exactly the same as the fake ones. They had not yet recovered from Jing Yunzhao's quick performance in the last round, and were already stunned by the things in front of them. Even Chief Surgeon Liu felt his heart skip a beat, let alone the young nurses and the patients' family members who knew nothing about the situation outside. He could accept the choice of 2 and was somewhat confident, but wasn't this a bit too difficult? For example, this Gastrodia elata actually had 7 choices. Who could distinguish between them in such a short time? Is there a problem? Xu Jingji was still indifferent, as if he could not see the shock of the people around him. To him, distinguishing between the real and fake herbs was a necessary basic lesson. If one could not even understand this, then this person should stay far away from herbs, so as to avoid using fake herbs to harm people in the future. That. Elder Xu, can't you remove a few choices for each herb? Director Liu pursed his lips and asked with some dissatisfaction. His original intention was to embarrass Jing Yunzhao and Gan Songbai, but Xu Jingji had set such a difficult question. Wasn't he also at a disadvantage? Then what was the point of him agreeing to the competition? Remove a few choices? Elder Xu snorted coldly, his eyes staring at him as if he wanted to kill someone. Then why don't you just let me help you pick out the real one? Can you compete? If not, then admit defeat and scram. Chief Surgeon Liu choked on his own saliva. He knew this old man's temper was not good, but he did not expect him to not give him any face and reprimand him in front of so many people. Jing Yunzhao, why aren't you starting? If you are wrong, then don't see me in the future. This old man doesn't want to know trash. Elder Xu was also rude to Jing Yunzhao. However, although he said that, Gan Songbai could clearly feel the pride in Xu Jingji's eyes. It made him feel that this Xu Jingji not only did not see Jing Yunzhao as trash, but also clearly knew her strength. That was why he spoke so unscrupulously. This was strange. Could it be that the mysterious master behind Jing Yunzhao was Xu Jingji? If this was really the case, then it had to be said that the little girl's luck was extremely good. Although this Xu Jing was strange, he was definitely a capable person with real ability. At this moment, Jing Yunzhao's expression didn't change. He went forward to observe them one by one. Gastrodia elata, the surface is yellowish-white or light yellowish-brown, with irregular vertical wrinkles, translucent, tough, not easy to break, the cross-section is flat and horny. Generally speaking, those merchants will use the root of chrysanthemum, purple jasmine root, trichosanthin, banana, taro root, potato, sweet potato, and so on to process imitation. It seemed difficult, but in fact, the taste and color were completely different. Jing Yunzhao successfully chose one of them. On the other side, Director Liu had already brought over some reagents. She could not help but feel amused. As a traditional Chinese physician, Chief Surgeon Liu's methods were similar to those of Western doctors. Besides, it wasn't difficult to distinguish Gastrodia elata, but he still needed to rely on things like iodine liquid. It could be seen that he only knew some things from books and didn't have much understanding of medicinal herbs. Not only did Jing Yunzhao look down on Chief Surgeon Liu's actions, but even some of the other doctors also shook their heads. Although that was also a method of identification, in the eyes of these traditional doctors, it was a bit nondescript. Jing Yunzhao's state of mind was calm as she continued to observe. Yam, the imitation was usually cast with plant starch, or processed with sweet potato, cassava, ginseng, and shallot. The taste was different. Safflower, mostly dyed with cornstalk, ginseng, the imitation was also very common. The ones on the table were Huashan ginseng, microphyte, platycodon, Angelica dehurica, wild cowpea, and mountain lettuce. The variety was simply wonderful. Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but admire this inferior imitation. After all, if she met someone like Director Liu, she was afraid that it would be easy to fool him. Chapter 197. Jing Yunzhao had always been calm and composed. Her serious look made many people feel that this seemingly young girl might really be an expert. Most of the doctors in the room could distinguish the things on the table, but the time required was different. There weren't many people who were as fast and accurate as Jing Yunjiao. They couldn't help but admit that even if they weren't clear about Jing Yunjiao's medical skills, they could still confirm that she had an incomparable eyesight and sense of smell. Just based on her skills, even if she couldn't become a doctor, she could still be an appraiser of medicinal ingredients. Moreover, she knew someone like Elder Shu. If she could get some pointers from Elder Shu and become a master concoction master, her future would be limitless. Although medical skills were important, even the cleverest housewife could not cook without rice. Medicinal herbs were the foundation, and they all understood this principle. When Jing Yunjiao finished the competition, Director Liu was only halfway through. Other than the medicinal herbs on the table, there were also many tools he used. The smell made the doctors frown. If it weren't for the fact that Director Liu was President Liu's grandson, they would have severely criticized this young man. There's no need to compete. Elder Shu suddenly said. Jing Yunjiao got everything right again. Elder Shu, I'm not done yet. Director Liu was a little dissatisfied. Although he was a little slow, he used the most appropriate test method and was the most accurate. When he was studying in Beijing, the books taught him the same way. He could not be judged to have lost just because he was slow, right? Moreover, Jing Yunjiao got everything right with her eyesight. Could it mean that she would get all the medicinal herbs she encountered in the future? Such a careless attitude was actually very dangerous. There's no need to continue. What's the difference between a doctor who can't even differentiate between medicinal herbs and trash? Don't hang around in front of me in the future and dirty my eyes. Elder Shu was very straightforward and did not give Director Liu any face. After saying that, he looked at Jing Yunjiao. Stupid girl, can anyone compete with you? You're looking down on yourself too much. Also, didn't I tell you before? If you encounter any trouble, you can talk to Li Xiaoyun. Naturally, someone will help you deal with it. You just have to be responsible for learning good things. What's there to worry about? Oh right, this old man also got you a certificate. In the future, if anyone says that you're not qualified to treat illnesses, you can poke their eyes out for me to see. I've lived for dozens of years and have processed all kinds of eyeballs, but I haven't studied human eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, Uncle Xing Yuan behind him handed over a document. Jing Yunjiao opened it and looked at it. His heart was filled with gratitude. To get a doctor's license, one had to go through the formal examination or the apprenticeship test. But even the apprenticeship test was not so simple. But now, Elder Shu had solved it for her at once. Elder Shu, that's not right. She's just a little girl. She's not even an adult yet. Director Liu said anxiously. Was this in line with the rules? As far as I know, you don't follow the rules either. But at the very least, this brat is capable enough. Shu Laro rolled his eyes at him and did not hide his disgust. In this world, there were medical families on the surface, but there were also low-key miracle doctors that others could not afford to offend. As long as the master who brought them in nodded, they could finish their apprenticeship at any time. As for the rules these days, they were all for outsiders to see. That's enough. I really don't know what a trash like you is struggling for. In the future, don't bother me with this kind of small matter. Old man Shu said to Xing Yuan, who was beside him, and lifted his foot to walk outside. The rest of the people were in a complete mess. When Director Liu heard those words, he was so angry that his legs turned to jelly. Chapter 198. Director Liu's ability was clearly seen by the people outside. Gan Songbai breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that after today, Director Liu could forget about raising his head in the hospital. Moreover, he would have to bear the pressure from the people outside. Even if he was the president's grandson, he might not be able to sit firmly in the director's position. Girl, let's go. Dr. Gan opened his mouth. As soon as he opened his mouth, Jing Yunjiao and Xiong Jin immediately stepped forward to help him out of the hospital. Director Liu watched as the old man he hated finally left his sight, but he couldn't feel happy. Everyone's gaze was too glaring. Chief Surgeon Liu used to be quite capable, but that was a few years ago. After a long time, he had forgotten most of the things he knew. Most of the patients he took in were those who had been prescribed medicine by others. All he needed to do was to sign the prescription or take a look at it. How could he have any real skills? What Chief Surgeon Liu did not know was that the scene of the quarrel and competition in the hospital had been secretly recorded by someone. It had now been spread on the Hua Ning County Forum, and after a few hours, it had become a hot topic for everyone to know. Director Liu was old and neglected the hospital's matters. When he heard the news, it was already too late. Once he heard that his grandson not only made Gan Songbai sick, but also fired him, he almost had a heart attack. He took Gan Songbai as a close friend. If it wasn't because Gan Songbai didn't like to socialize and only wanted to treat patients peacefully and steadily, he would definitely have cooperated with Gan Songbai to establish the hospital decades ago. At that time, he also received a lot of help from Gan Songbai. Now, he was fired just like that. How could he not know Gan Songbai's temperament? Being pointed at and scolded for having no medical ethics, at that time, he probably had the heart to die. This grudge was really big. If it was just this matter, Director Liu wouldn't be unable to accept it. But he didn't expect that idiot to compete with a child. The competition was fine, but the problem was that he actually lost in the end. He was even pointed at by Xu Jingji and scolded as trash. Ever since the video spread, Director Liu's phone never stopped ringing. Every call was from those people who couldn't afford to offend him, and those people were all after Xu Jingji's name. Director Liu wanted to cry but had no tears. Don't look at how Xu Jingji was only a pharmacist. His connections were rampant to the point that it made people's hair stand up. Even medical families had to give him face. How could he, the director of a small hospital, afford to offend him? That night, Dean Liu directly removed his own grandson from his position. He even declared that his grandson would never inherit the hospital in the future. The next morning, someone directly stripped Director Liu of his qualifications to practice medicine. Director Liu was still a little confused. He did not understand how so many things had happened in one night. While Director Liu was down on his luck, Qin Jishui's name spread even further. The public was more concerned about this scum man. In that video, Qin Jishui's hypocritical appearance was still fresh in their minds. Qin Jishui's house and car were both seized, so he could only take the old lady back to their old home in Huaning County. Along the way, they were mysteriously spat on a few times by someone. At first, they thought it was just a coincidence, but when they got back, they discovered that the front door of the house under their old mother's name was painted full with the word scum. Not long after, his phone number was also found out. They harassed him day and night, and he was annoyed beyond endurance. Unfortunately, the old lady's illness had yet to recover, but she had already offended all the doctors in Huaning County. Her problem was getting more and more serious. It was no longer a state where she could be cured with just a few doses of medicine. Qin Jishui had no money on him and no longer had the ability to hire the neighbors to help take care of her. However, he had always felt that he was a cut above others. Making him take care of the old lady's urine every day was worse than killing him. As for Xiong Jin, she finally got a divorce as she wished. Qin Jishui was naturally unwilling, but everything was enforced. He was not allowed to resist at all. Chapter 199. Inside the house filled with junk, there wasn't even a job. Qin Jishui laid on the bed in despair. He could even hear the painful howls coming from the other room. Qin Jishui didn't know how his life ended up like this. Everything seemed to have returned to a decade ago. At that time, he was so poor that he didn't even have any living expenses left. The old lady would always praise him for being smart and sensible outside, boasting to her relatives and friends that not only did he get into a university, he also had a generous scholarship. She even said that he could rely on his own ability to earn all his expenses outside, making him suffer unspeakably. His roommates all wore branded clothes. No matter how poor they were, they wouldn't live like him. Even when he was resting, he had to be tutored by those students. Moreover, those children from wealthy families were very difficult to manage. As a tutor, he didn't do a good job at it. It was also at this time that a boy from his dorm took a liking to Xiong Jin. He overheard a few words and found out that Seong-jin's father was the CEO of a company. Not only was she good-looking, she also had a good temper and rejected many people's pursuit. The moment he saw Seong-jin, he felt somewhat unreconciled. They were all humans, but there was always a distinction between high and low. What he couldn't achieve in his lifetime, Seong-jin had it since birth. She was rich, so she bemoaned the state of the universe and pitied the fate of mankind. Her gaze towards him was filled with sympathy. So, he used all methods to get close to her. Of course, Seong-jin was indeed a good woman. It was hard for him not to be moved, but he knew what he wanted even more. Seeing Seong-jin turn from a proud rich family's young miss into a haggard old woman, he felt that his uneasy feelings were finally pacified. There were many women outside, but he had never thought of divorcing Seong-jin. It was not because he loved Seong-jin very much, but because Seong-jin was different. Every time he saw her, he knew that he was successful, and those people outside would never understand. Qin Ji-shue's mind was in a mess. The old lady was itching unbearably and was about to go crazy. She started scolding, "You good-for-nothing trash, you can't even control a woman. You caused me to have to suffer with you at this age. Tell me, what's the point of raising you? What kind of sin have I committed to give birth to such an unfilial son? I told you to call Dr. Gan, but you didn't listen. You want me to die, ah?" The demonic sound entered his ears, causing Qin Ji-shue's veins to bulge. He gnashed his teeth in anger. Qin Ji-shue couldn't help but think of Seong-jin. His entire body felt extremely uncomfortable. Although Seong-jin had become a haggard old woman, during the first 2 years of her marriage to him, even though she was very busy outside, she was still gentle and soft when she came home. How harmonious were the two of them at that time? Also, when Seong-jin had a miscarriage, she did not look so desperate. If he could go back to that time, he would definitely treat Seong-jin better after he took over the company. Also, she was related to the Tang family. If he had known earlier. He didn't know much about it. Qin Ji-shue's miserable life continued day by day. Old Madam continued to scold him every day like before, becoming more and more unpleasant to the ears. However, this time, the target of her scolding was her own son. Qin Ji-shue thoroughly felt the pain Seong-jin had gone through before. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. He had no job and no savings. In the end, Qin Ji-shue simply let the old lady sell the little shelter they had and rented a house nearby. It was just that the old lady's voice was too loud. The neighbors complained all day long. Not long after, they were both chased out. Qin Ji-shue invested all the money he earned from selling the house into his business in an attempt to rise up again. However, in the end, he still lost everything and ended up wandering the streets. Old Madam wasn't good at walking, so Qin Ji-shue simply brought her to the streets to beg for money every day. He also couldn't bring himself to look for a job elsewhere, so he had to rely on that meager income to survive. It was extremely miserable. Of course, these were all stories for later. Chapter 200. Some people's reputations were ruined, but there were also people whose reputations skyrocketed. Because Jing Yunjiao was still underage, in the video that was leaked before, that cold face was blurred out. Netizens didn't know Jing Yunjiao's identity, but that didn't stop their curiosity. These days, there were many good-looking girls, but there were very few who had such an imposing manner. Even through the screen, they could feel the cold air that the girl was emitting. Her voice was powerful, and every word was full of deterrence. It was even more exciting than a TV drama. When Jing Yunjiao appeared, she kicked director Liu and sent him flying. This became a topic that netizens took delight in talking about. Ever since the video was spread, the relatives and friends of the Gan family went crazy. They didn't know when the Gan family had a granddaughter. More importantly, this granddaughter actually had such a powerful medical talent. It shocked those old doctors. Gan Song-bai was originally sullen for 2 days because he had to leave the hospital, but when others came to congratulate him on having a successor, the old man's resentment disappeared. Jin Chen, you have to learn well from Yun Jiao. If you really can't, it's fine to recognize a master. Our family also pays attention to that. As long as you can learn skills, seniority and whatnot isn't a problem. Grandpa Gan said with a smile as soon as he saw his grandson. Gan Jinchen specially went home to comfort his own biological grandfather, who knew that as soon as he entered the door, the old man would start to swindle him. His face immediately turned bitter. Jing Yunjiao wasn't even older than him. If he recognized her as a master, would he still have the face to see others in the future? On the other hand, Su Chu nodded happily with a look of schadenfreude. Grandpa, I'm your biological grandson. Gan Jinchen blushed with shame. So what if you're my biological grandson? Yun Jiao is more sensible than you. Grandpa Gan snorted. The thing he regretted the most now was that Jing Yunjiao wasn't a child of the Gan family. She was good-looking and talented. Where could they find such a seedling? Although he was old, he was not muddle-headed. Yun Jiao treated him like her own grandfather. If she had not been there that day at the hospital, even if he had not been angered to death by Director Liu, his health would have been greatly reduced. Most importantly, his reputation would have been completely ruined. Jing Yunjiao sat at the side. His calm and steady appearance made him look like a jade carving. Just looking at him made one feel better. By the way, Yun Jiao, what did you give me? I could smell the fragrance from afar. After a while, Grandpa Gan couldn't help but point at the gift bag that Jing Yunjiao brought over. Jing Yunjiao was waiting for these words. She smiled and opened the bag. It was the wine she brewed in the space. This wine was brewed using the recipe in the spirit jade. The alcohol content was not very high. It was mainly mellow and fragrant. She had tried it carefully. If it was brewed with the grains outside, it would taste better than those on the market. However, it was not as good as the grains in the space. This wine was given to Grandpa Gan, so it was naturally made with the best stuff. The wine bottle was exquisite and ancient. It looked like a thin gourd. There were not many embellishments on the bottle, but the bottom of the bottle was engraved with the words Yuling. It was the name of the wine company that she and Pak Yuan had set up. Grandpa, try this wine. It was brewed by me. Jing Yunjiao opened the wine cork. Grandpa Gan's eyes instantly lit up. He also loved wine, but most of the time, he only drank medicinal wine. Every time, he wouldn't drink excessively, but he still had some understanding of wine. The wine that Jing Yunjiao brought over had a strong aroma, just smelling it made him salivate. Chapter 201. Usually, Jing Yunjiao would bring some fresh fruits when she came to the Gan residence. Gan Jinchen and Su Chu felt that it was strange that she was acting so abnormally today. When they saw that she was taking out wine, they were even more confused. The old man didn't love wine. In the past, he had piled up the wine that others gave him everywhere. In the end, he had no choice but to give it to others. In short, the old man didn't even look at it. His reaction today wasn't right. Was he giving face to Jing Yunjiao? Su Chu and Gan Jinchen had the same thought. However, after the old man took the wine and took a small sip, he revealed a very surprised expression in the next second. He clapped his hands and said, "Good wine. There are no impurities in this wine. It's much better than the ones I drank in the past. Yun Jiao, accompany this old man for a meal today. I'll try it again." "Oh right, did you brew this yourself?" The old man suddenly thought of something. He was a little shocked. Why did this little girl always give him the feeling that she was omnipotent? Brewing wine wasn't strange. Su Chu had tried making wine before, but the taste was really bad. However, Jing Yunjiao's wine was different. It was mellow and fragrant, with a clear and pure color. The aftertaste lasted for a long time. After drinking 2 mouthfuls, he felt as if his fatigue was dispelled. It made his mood better. The same went for the fruits that Jing Yunjiao sent. He heard that they were all planted by her mysterious master. The taste was completely different from the ones on the market. Not only did they look good, but they also tasted good. Every time Jing Yunjiao sent them a large amount, they couldn't finish it. However, ever since the family had those fresh fruits, they didn't even have a cold or fever. Of course, it might not be related to the things that Jing Yunjiao sent over. However, he still felt that she must be extraordinary. "Grandfather, you're the first person to taste it. However, in addition to this wine, I also brewed medicinal wine and fruit wine. I'll bring them over for you to see next time, Jing Yunjiao said. This wine had its own name. When the factory mass-produced it, the name would be engraved on the bottle. Yunjiao girl, what are you thinking about every day in that little head of yours? You can even brew wine. Did your master teach you this? The old man sighed, his heart filled with emotion. Jing Yunjiao nodded. At this moment, when the old man tasted the wine again, the feeling in his heart was different. There was also a faint sense of pride. If this wine was sold, it would definitely be able to stand firmly in the market. If that day really came, wouldn't he, the first person to eat crabs, be envied to death? However, this market would probably have to wait for another 2 years. When Jing Yunjiao reached adulthood, he might be able to give it a try. However, the old man would never have thought that not long after, this wine would become a trend. Jing Yunjiao wasn't in a hurry to say it. After all, the matter wasn't settled yet. It was inevitable that the old man would be worried. Once everything was settled, the old man would only need to enjoy the surprise. Jing Yunjiao's wine caused the old man to become an alcoholic for the first time. However, this matter also caused a bit of a joke. Old man Gan had a son and a daughter, but they both had independent jobs. Recently, the old man's matter had caused a lot of commotion. It was impossible for them not to know. When the two of them heard the news, they immediately rushed home. Who knew that when they entered the house, they would find that the old man, who usually didn't like wine, couldn't help but drink a cup. The two of them were frightened. He had already reached the point of drinking to drown his sorrows. How could he be in a good mood? As a result, the two of them hurriedly discussed sending the old man out on a trip to relieve his boredom. They even secretly changed the old man's wine into water. The old man couldn't find the treasure that Jing Yunjiao sent over. He was so anxious that his eyes turned red. His anger wasn't light at all. Only after he flew into a rage did his children confess. When the old man heard this, he wanted to scold someone. Chapter 202. Grandpa Gan's son and daughter had never seen their father like this before. They were anxious and panicked, and felt that this incident had greatly affected their father. Dad, you should drink less of this wine. Why don't we accompany you on a trip? It's healthy and good for your mood. That's right, Dad. If you really want to drink it, then try the medicinal wine. Also, I just saw it. I don't know which factory produced this wine. We don't even know if it's up to standard. Oh right, did you buy it or did someone give it to you? I'm going to settle the score with them. Grandpa Gan was so angry that his face turned green. Gan Jinchen was urgently called back. When he saw his father and aunt in this state, he felt a sense of schadenfreude. Dad, Auntie, this wine was brewed by my classmate. Before Gan Jinchen could finish speaking, he heard his father suddenly roar, What? What is your classmate thinking? How can you casually drink the wine that you brewed yourself? You too. Grandpa Gan is confused and you're confused too, aren't you? What's your classmate's name? Bring me to her and ask her clearly. How can she be so stupid? Bang! Grandpa Gan casually picked up a book from the table and threw it at his son's head. Gan Jinchen's mouth twitched, and he secretly laughed. Jing Yunjiao was his grandfather's precious god-granddaughter. She was more important than him, his biological grandson. Calling her stupid, his father brought this upon himself. Bastard! I'm so angry. Who are you calling stupid? I think you're the one who is stupid. This wine was brewed by Yunjiao. So what? It's delicious. There were only 2 bottles, and you 2 idiots actually poured it all away. Grandpa Gan was so angry that his beard was stiff. When he thought about the wine, he felt his heart ache. This wine was getting better the more he drank it. After drinking it, his chest didn't feel stuffy anymore. He even slept soundly. Now, it was all gone. His son and daughter were dumbfounded. Of course, Jing Yunjiao and the others knew about it. They also liked this little girl very much. No wonder their father scolded them for being stupid. So it's a gift from Yunjiao. No wonder it smells so good. Dad, I didn't know. How about this? I'll ask Yunjiao for a few more bottles. Uncle Gan said immediately. He smelled the wine when he poured it out, but he didn't taste it because he was worried about the old man. He might be worried about the things given by others, but Jing Yunjiao knew her limits. Moreover, Old Master's matter was all thanks to her. The old man snorted. Go. Come back when there's wine. Otherwise, don't come back. After all, Jing Yunjiao was still a child. He probably didn't have much time to brew wine. He might not even have any stock on hand. Uncle Gan immediately responded, and the two elders dragged Gan Jinchen out of the door. Only then did they learn the truth about the old man's fondness for wine from Gan Jinchen. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. They wanted to coax the old man, but who knew that the flattery would backfire? The father and son of the Gan family went to their residence together. When Jing Yunjiao heard the purpose of their visit, she couldn't help but laugh. She even took out an extra bottle of wine. Uncle Gan, you can try it too. If you think it's good, feel free to ask me in the future. Although Gan Jinchen's father was only a doctor, Gan Jinchen's mother was a businesswoman. She usually had to give gifts or entertain VIPs. The taste of her wine was absolutely impeccable. Now, she was only worried about its popularity. In fact, besides Old Master Gan, Jing Yunjiao also gave a few bottles to Old Man Shu. After all, this matter was thanks to his help. But now, Jing Yunjiao was conflicted. She was going to send this wine to Yu Tianxian for Du Lin to taste, but what about Li Xiaoyun? Chapter 203. At this time, Uncle Gan felt much more relaxed after receiving the wine. After calming down, he felt that the old man's love for this wine was not without reason. After leaving Jing Yunjiao's place, Uncle Gan carefully sneaked a sip of the wine as soon as he got into the car. The moment it entered his stomach, it immediately triggered the worms in his stomach. He rolled his eyes and decided to take a few more bottles. When he returned to the old man's place, he only took out 2 bottles. As for Jing Yunjiao, she personally went to Yu Tianxian and brought 20 bottles with her. It would take about 3 months for the factory to brew the first batch of wine. Before that, all the company's publicity and sales would be provided by her space. After all, time was slow in the space, so it would not take too much time. However, there was also a disadvantage, which was that there was a limit to the quantity. Therefore, in these 3 months, her and Pak Yuan's goal was to increase Yu Ling wine's popularity. In Yu Tianxian, there was an endless stream of customers, and business was booming. Jing Yunjiao's daily delivery of ingredients had more than doubled compared to before. Young Master Li said that you were heartless, and he was right. Du Lin took a sip of wine with great interest, but he did not forget what young Master Li had told him. What do you mean? Jing Yunjiao did not understand at all. Looking at her confused eyes, Du Lin smacked his lips and secretly admired young Master Li. Young Master Li has returned to the capital. According to the previous schedule, he will only be back next year, Du Lin explained. Jing Yunjiao's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. No wonder she had not received any text or phone calls from Li Xiaoyun for so long. Li Xiaoyun had been discharged before her exam, but she was really busy at that time and had rejected his 2 invitations to treat her. Although she occasionally thought of him recently, she felt that a young master like him would have a lot of things to do, so she did not take the initiative to contact him. When did he leave? I was thinking of giving him a few bottles of wine, but since he's not here, forget it. Jing Yunjiao inexplicably let out a sigh of relief. Li Xiaoyun was a very suitable person to make friends with, and the two of them could get along well. However, she did not like the scrutinizing look in his eyes. This person was too smart. In addition, he had the advantage in terms of age. He could always guess her thoughts, so when they got along, her emotions would often be exposed in front of him. Seeing Jing Yunjiao's attitude, Du Lin couldn't help but laugh. You went back during the exam. Before young Master Li left, he said that if I didn't take the initiative to mention it, you wouldn't think of him. I didn't believe him at first, but now it seems that he was right. Little Yunjiao, don't be fooled by young Master Li's arrogance. I can guarantee you that the reason why he stayed in Huaning County for so long this year is all because of you. The next time he comes back, it's better if you treat him more gently. He's already at the age where he can get married. If he thinks that all the girls in the world are as cold as you, he might end up alone in the future. Du Lin laughed again. Half of it was a joke. Jing Yunjiao only treated it as a joke. But he had to admit that it was a pity that there was no overbearing and smart person like Li Xiaoyun by his side. A few days later, Yu Ling Wine's first 7-star wine, which was brewed with 7 types of grains, began to show signs of improvement. Yu Tianxian's reputation was quite good. During this period of time, Du Lin would pick out a table of customers for them to try. These customers were mostly influential people. They would naturally ask about the wine once they tasted it. When they heard that it was a new product launched by a new company, they were somewhat disappointed, but also somewhat expectant. In addition, Gan Jinshan's mother specially bought a batch from Jing Yunjiao. The response was even better. The business circle was very complicated, but it wasn't big. Once something new appeared, it would easily attract their attention. Naturally, they would begin to inquire about it. Chapter 204. Of course, there were quite a few wine companies that wanted to get their hands on her recipe. Gan Jinshan's mother treated her well and asked for her opinion. However, when she found out that the wine had been handed over to someone else to make, she couldn't help but be surprised. The hot holiday passed quickly. At the end of August, Yu Ling Wines officially launched the 7-star wine for sale. However, due to the limited quantity, it was sold out immediately. Pak Yuan took the opportunity to make a name for himself and received a lot of orders. Xiong Jin also became Jing Yunjiao's right-hand woman. Although she suffered many setbacks in her relationship, she was decisive and had a lot of ideas when it came to work. Jing Yunjiao wasn't worried that these two people would take charge of the company's affairs. Seeing that school was about to start in 3 days, Jing Yunjiao went out with Xiao Haiqing to shop and prepare the things they needed for school. However, after the two of them walked around, Jing Yunjiao inexplicably felt a gaze following her closely. Someone was definitely following them. However, when she turned her head, there were many passers-by, so it was difficult to distinguish. "What's wrong?" Xiao Haiqing asked, puzzled. "Nothing, Haiqing. I'm a little tired. Let's go sit in that shop." Jing Yunjiao pointed at a snack bar by the road. Xiao Haiqing felt that there was something wrong with Jing Yunjiao. In the past, whenever she dragged Jing Yunjiao out shopping, she wouldn't say the word tired even if she carried things for a whole day. She wouldn't even sweat. However, they had only been out for a while now. However, Xiao Haiqing's eyesight was very good. When she saw Jing Yunjiao's state, her first thought was that she had her own reasons. She nodded without hesitation. It wasn't dinner time yet, so there weren't many people in the shop. Jing Yunjiao symbolically ordered some food and sat down quietly. Her gaze was fixed on the entrance, watching the people walking back and forth in front of it. After staring for a while, Jing Yunjiao found a strange target. The other party looked like a woman in her 40s or 50s. She was dressed in ordinary clothes, her hair was messy, and her skin was dark. She looked like she worked hard all year round. Her eyes were a little flustered, and she glanced at her from time to time. Her face was full of hesitation, and her expression was very complicated. A few minutes later, another rough-looking man walked over. At first glance, the man looked like a laborer, and his clothes were not exquisite. The two of them dawdled for a while and began to walk towards Jing Yunjiao. "You." Xiao Haiqing looked at the two people who suddenly appeared in front of her. She was surprised. "Eldest girl." "Yes, she's the eldest girl." "Father, take a look. Her eyebrows and eyes are the same as mine when I was young," the woman said. Jing Yunjiao was stunned. Xiao Haiqing's mouth twitched. How was it exactly the same? Jing Yunjiao's red phoenix eyes were sharp and spirited, while this woman's eyes were downwards with a bitter expression. Furthermore, she had a round nose. Jing Yunjiao, on the other hand, was different. Her nose was sharp and perky, small and exquisite. The difference in style was 2 centuries. "You've been following me all the way. What's the matter?" Jing Yunjiao didn't get angry and asked calmly, since he didn't know the reason. When the woman heard this, tears flowed down her face. She stepped forward to grab Jing Yunjiao's hand. However, Jing Yunjiao had been practicing martial arts in the space for 2 months during the summer vacation. She had never liked strangers touching her, so she naturally avoided it. Aya, you're my eldest girl. There's no mistake. Seeing Jing Yunjiao's cold attitude, the woman wailed. Jing Yunjiao frowned. Xiao Haiqing couldn't close her mouth, and her eyelids kept twitching. Chapter 205. Fortunately, there weren't many customers in the store, so the woman's actions didn't attract too much attention. Jing Yunjiao's heart was also flustered. She raised her head to take a closer look. This couple's attitude was earnest. The woman's tears flowed down in strings, both her eyes were red, but she seemed to be sincere. She kept calling her eldest lass, so it was hard for her not to overthink the meaning behind those words. The other party cried for a while, but she wasn't afraid. She directly sat down on the seat next to her and stared at Jing Yunjiao as if she was afraid that she would escape. She slowly opened her mouth and said, "Eldest lass, I've wronged you all these years. I thought you already, isn't the child fine? Don't speak nonsense." The man next to her immediately stopped her. "What do you two mean? Can you explain it clearly?" Jing Yunjiao said with a frown. After she found out about her identity in her previous life, she also wanted to find her biological parents, but she was already in prison at that time. She didn't have any requirements for her biological parents. This was Huaning County, which was only a small place. It was basically impossible for her parents to be rich and noble. Moreover, if their family was really well off, then there was no reason for them to abandon her. So when she saw the two people in front of her, Jing Yunjiao was already half believing and half doubting. "Lass, you have a small gourd jade pendant on you, right?" The two people looked at each other and asked. Jing Yunjiao's gaze was complicated as she nodded. "Then there's no mistake. You're our child. Your surname is Jing, and it's engraved on the jade tablet. When I gave birth to you, your grandmother saw that you were a girl, so she secretly threw you away behind your father and me. I searched the entire village but couldn't find you. Eldest lass, don't blame me. I've also missed you all these years." The woman cried. Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips and her expression was calm. Xiao Haiqing was already so shocked that she couldn't speak. Her mouth was opened so wide that an egg could be stuffed in. After a while, she carefully opened her mouth and said, "Yunjiao, these were Jing Yunjiao's biological parents." However, for some reason, she felt that it was very strange, or rather, she was somewhat unwilling to believe it. Of course, it wasn't that she despised the two of them for looking poor, but she felt that they weren't quite the same as Jing Yunjiao. Whether it was their eyebrows or silhouettes, there wasn't the slightest bit of similarity. The only convincing thing was the jade token. "Yunjiao, the Qiao clan knows that you have a jade token." Xiao Haiqing suddenly remembered and reminded him. As soon as Xiao Haiqing said this, the woman next to her immediately said, "Are you suspecting that we are imposters? Little classmate, you think too badly of us. Daya, it's fine if you don't want to believe it. Isn't there a paternity test now? Let's just do it. You're definitely my child. How can I be wrong?" Since he had already said so much, Xiao Haiqing really couldn't say anything more. However, it would be best if they could do an appraisal. Jing Yunjiao also nodded. Her heart was already in a mess. Although she occasionally thought about the matter of her biological parents, she didn't have any expectations. She didn't even think that she would meet them. At this moment, she couldn't even maintain her composure. "Child, there's no mistake." The woman opened her mouth again but was stopped by the man. She only heard the man say, "The child just saw us and can't accept it. How about this, child? I'll leave you my phone number. You tell me where you live and how to contact you. You can tell your adoptive parents and we'll do the appraisal tomorrow, okay?" Chapter 206. The couple's attitude was sincere and it seemed like their relationship was pretty much confirmed. Jing Yunjiao nodded and the other party introduced them. The man was called Jing Taijun and the woman was called Wang Xinfang. As for the other details, because their relationship was still uncertain, they didn't say much. The two stopped and talked for more than half an hour before leaving. Xiao Haiqing sighed. She felt that something was off. Yunjiao, do you think they're really your biological parents? Xiao Haiqing asked. The food in front of her was already cold and she didn't have any appetite. She used her chopsticks to stir the food. We'll know after the results are out. Jing Yunjiao was also confused. After all, everything happened too suddenly. She met her biological parents while shopping and they even recognized her at a glance. It was really hard for her to grasp. However, she had been thrown away when she was still an infant. At that time, her eyebrows and eyes had not yet grown. Moreover, babies changed their appearance every day. Even if the woman remembered her appearance at that time, after more than 10 years, the difference was like heaven and earth. This woman did not have discerning eyes, so how could she be sure? Moreover, because this jade tablet was related to space, she specially bought a sturdy chain and strung it up. Normally, she wouldn't take it out and show it to others. Although it was summer, she was wearing a light blue shirt with the buttons neatly fastened. If she didn't do some vigorous exercise, the jade gourd inside would definitely not be revealed. It was impossible for the woman to rely on this jade gourd to recognize her. Moreover, although this jade gourd looked dull like a fake product, how could something left behind by the ancestor be inferior? If this jade tablet was bought by Jing Taijun from an antique stall, then how could the ancestor inside the jade be explained? Could it be that Jing Taijun coincidentally bought something left behind by the Jing family? And if this jade gourd wasn't bought by Jing Taijun but was instead a family heirloom, then it would be even harder to explain. That woman kept saying that she was abandoned by the Jing family's old madam. Since the old madam favored males over females, she would never leave the things left behind by the Jing family's old ancestor to her granddaughter who might not even survive. Jing Yunjiao did not voice his suspicions. After all, the space inside the jade tablet and the ancestor were secrets that could not be revealed to others. Moreover, the results of the DNA test were still unknown. Everything was still too early. Once the results were out, if she really was the daughter of the Jing family, he would naturally think of a way to find out more. After such a commotion, the two of them no longer had the mood to continue shopping. After Jing Yunjiao returned, he asked Pak Yuan to inquire about it. The next morning, they also received the news. This Jing Taijun and Wang Xinfang came from a village called Water Village near Huaning County. Wang Xinfang's parents-in-law had already passed away. Jing Taijun was an ordinary worker while Wang Xinfang was a housewife responsible for farming and taking care of the children. Jing Taijun had 4 children. According to Pak Yuan, this couple gave birth late. The eldest was a girl who was lost a few years ago. The neighbors did not remember the exact time, but she should be around the same age as Jing Yunjiao. The eldest girl had 2 more daughters and the youngest was a son. Currently, the Jing family of 5 was completely dependent on Jing Taijun's meager income. Their days were very difficult. Jing Yunjiao did not have a good impression of this couple who could very well be her parents. Perhaps it was because of the suspicions in his heart, but he always felt that this matter was too inexplicable. Chapter 207. No matter what, Jing Yunjiao couldn't turn a blind eye to her parents. After all, she also wanted to know if she was a wild girl that popped out from a crack in a rock. That morning, Jing Taijun and Wang Xinfang indeed appeared at the entrance of the district. The two were still wearing yesterday's clothes, while Jing Yunjiao was clean and tidy. The material of her clothes looked very good, creating a sharp contrast. Eldest daughter, aren't your adoptive parents coming with you? Wang Xinfang asked. Huaning County was only a small county and didn't have the technology to do a paternity test, so they had to make a trip to Ning City today. School would start the day after tomorrow, so there was still enough time. However, the results would probably take 10 days to half a month. I've cut ties with them. I'm alone now. Jing Yunjiao answered. Her face was delicate and pretty, and her temperament was cold and elegant. When she spoke, there was a bit of dignity, which made the couple stunned. However, very quickly, Wang Xinfang opened her mouth. How can this be good? We raised you up. If you cut ties with your biological parents just because you found them, then how will your reputation be good in the future? It's not because of you. Right now, we're not sure if we're related by blood, so you don't need to worry about this for now. Thank you. Jing Yunzhao's voice was powerful and resonant, polite and distant. Not to mention that they didn't know if they were biological parents. Even if they were biological parents, they couldn't be intimate for a while. Moreover, when she thought about the news Pak Yuan told her this morning, she felt somewhat uncomfortable in her heart. The couple said that the Jing family's elders favored boys over girls, but in reality, Wang Xinfang's mother-in-law passed away about 15 years ago. In other words, even if her grandmother had abandoned her, the couple had given birth to another child without anyone pressuring them. Her other two daughters were 14 and 12 years old, while her youngest son was 10 years old. They would give birth to another child every 2 years until they gave birth to their son. No matter how one looked at it, it didn't seem like they were forced by their elders. Jing Yunzhao's attitude at this time made the couple's faces stiffen. Forget it, forget it. The child hasn't been by our side for so many years, so it's normal for her to have some differences with us. Let's go to the city first. Jing Taijun faintly sighed. The two of them had a distressed look on their faces, as if they had suffered a great sin. Jing Yunzhao didn't mind and got on the bus to Ning City with the two of them. In the car, Jing Yunzhao's exquisite appearance inevitably attracted people's attention. Wang Xinfang, who was beside her, saw that people were staring at Jing Yunzhao, so she put on a smile and said, "This is my eldest daughter." Originally, there were only a few glances from the others, but after Wang Xinfang's words, the car became lively in no time. "Big sister, you really know how to raise your daughter. This girl is so pretty. I think she can be a star," the auntie sitting next to her praised. Jing Yunzhao frowned slightly as he sat by the window. He was not used to it. The space in the car was claustrophobic, so it was easy to feel annoyed and stuffy. Moreover, she had never liked being pointed at. Even if the other party had good intentions, the gazes that looked like they were looking at a gorilla made her feel uncomfortable. This girl was beautiful when she was young, but big sister, you don't know. My family's girl was lost for many years. I only found her yesterday. It's been too long. My daughter was still young and couldn't recognize me. That's why I specially went to Ning City to do a DNA test. Wang Xinfang didn't care if the other party was willing to listen or not and said directly. Chapter 208. Most of these people were curious. When they heard Wang Xinfang's words, many of them turned their heads and stared at Jing Yunzhao for a while. How could you lose her? It's such a pity. If you don't raise the child by your side, you'll definitely become distant. She's already so big, the auntie said out of turn. After she finished speaking, many people expressed their agreement in their hearts. However, at the same time, they also understood Jing Yunzhao's cold attitude. Seeing that this girl was dressed appropriately and the material of her clothes were extremely good, she must have lived a very good life before she found her biological parents. Looking at her parents, they were covered in dirt and grime. With one look, one could tell that their family's situation wasn't very good. This girl must have despised them in her heart, right? Sigh, it's all my fault for only finding her after so long. Even if she blames me, it's only right. However, I believe that the child's nature isn't bad. Everything will be fine in the future. Now that I've found her, I can die in peace, Wang Xinfang said with a bitter face. Jing Yunzhao's eyebrows twitched. At this moment, her mood became more and more complicated. She wasn't an ordinary 16-year-old girl. In the past, she had been tormented by Qiao Hongye so much that she was extremely sensitive to the tone of other people's words. How could she not hear the ambiguity in her words? All of her words were telling others that she was blaming her biological parents. Also, if her nature wasn't bad, did that mean that her temperament wasn't good right now? Jing Yunzhao took a deep breath. If these were her biological parents, it seemed that there would be trouble in the future. Little girl, you have to be filial to your parents in the future. Look at how tired they are. You can't make them unhappy anymore. When they were about to get out of the car, the auntie next to her said again. Along the way, Wang Xinfang and the auntie chatted happily. Jing Yunzhao didn't want to talk too much, so she didn't pay attention to them. However, at this moment, when she heard such words again, Jing Yunzhao couldn't bear it anymore. Auntie, If you like educating people so much, you can go back and educate your own children. Do you have nothing better to do now? Also, if they were really my parents, I would naturally be filial to them, but I'm not sure if that's the case. Even if they were, they wouldn't be so tired because of me. Please don't put all the blame on me. I just met this couple yesterday, and I'm already very cooperative by being willing to come over today. Besides, I haven't said a word along the way. Which eye of yours saw me making them unhappy again? After Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, he glanced at Wang Xinfang. Aunt Wang, don't you have 2 daughters and a son in your family? Why didn't she mention it when she was talking to others? Look, everyone has misunderstood me. They think that you've been looking for me for more than 10 years after you abandoned me. As soon as Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, he exhaled and got out of the car. His back was cold. She had long been used to living without her biological parents. Now, she was willing to acknowledge them not because she lacked family affection, but because she wanted to give herself an explanation. During those days in prison in her previous life, she constantly wondered why her biological parents had abandoned her. She also constantly fantasized about how her life would be like if she had never been separated from her biological parents. Therefore, she didn't resist these 2 people who suddenly appeared and claimed to be her parents. She even actively cooperated with them. Jing Yunjiao's words made Wang Xinfang and the auntie blush. The auntie suspiciously glared at Wang Xinfang. So this couple actually had 3 children? That was different. If they really missed their lost children so much, why did they keep giving birth to so many? They valued boys more than girls, right? Chapter 209. Wang Xinfang was exposed by Jing Yunjiao on the spot and felt embarrassed. She hurriedly got out of the car. The strong sunlight outside made her face even redder. Jing Yunjiao opened his mouth as if to say something, but Jing Yunjiao ignored him. He simply called a taxi and drove to Ning City's largest hospital. How expensive is it to call a taxi? If the 3 of us took the bus, it would only cost a few dollars. Wang Xinfang couldn't help but mutter. Her face was a bit bitter. It would be better if she was smiling, but right now, she looked as if she had lost $1,000. Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but wonder if she would cry if she kept this mouth shape for a while. It's fine. It's just a few $dozen. What's more important than finding our daughter? Jing Taijun said. Wang Xinfang didn't say anything. But when they got out of the car, before Jing Taijun could take out the money, Jing Yunjiao had already handed it over. She didn't want to take advantage of others. If the test results came out and the other party wasn't her biological parents, it was hard to guarantee that they wouldn't yell at her for a few $dozen. She had enough of people like Qiao Weimin. Now, she was a bit guarded against everyone. This Ning City Central Hospital had many tall buildings. It looked really grand and wasn't something that a small place like the county could compare to. Ning City's prosperity could be ranked in the top in the whole of China. This medical standard also represented the development of Ning City. Therefore, not only was the construction very grand, the environment inside was also very good. The test wasn't very troublesome. Pay the money, collect the blood sample, and it was over quickly. Under Jing Yunjiao's insistence, the few $1,000s were split equally between the 2 parties so that there wouldn't be any monetary implications after confirming that they weren't related. Xiao Yun, you see, this big hospital is really different. Oh right, a few days ago I felt a bit out of breath and wasn't feeling very well. Since we're already here, why don't you accompany Mom to have a look? Wang Xinfang also knew that Jing Yunjiao didn't like to interact with others. She just stood beside her with a face full of expectation. Jing Yunjiao glanced at her and nodded. The departments in the central hospital were clearly separated. One only needed to take the elevator to get up and down. Every place was easy to find. Wang Xinfang did a few tests while Jing Yunjiao waited outside. There were people coming and going in the hospital. Jing Yunjiao stood in the same place, but suddenly, someone bumped into her. Ouch! Why did you bump into me? It hurts so much. The old lady on the ground scolded. I didn't hit you. You threw yourself at me, Jing Yunjiao said directly. There weren't cameras everywhere in the hospital. At least, There weren't anywhere Jing Yunjiao was at. Little girl, why are you spouting nonsense? Are you her guardian? How did you educate your child? I'm not trying to blackmail you. These days, children are getting more and more immature. The old lady got up and pointed at Jing Taijun as she scolded. Jing Taijun looked a bit embarrassed. I'm sorry. My daughter didn't do it on purpose. How about this? I have a few hundred yuan here. I'll leave some for the fare and give the rest to you. After Jing Taijun finished speaking, he stood in front of her as if he was afraid that she would be bullied. He quickly stuffed the money into the old lady's hands and helped her leave. Although Jing Tijuan's face was full of protection, Jing Yunjiao wasn't moved at all. Whether or not she did it, Jing Taijun was clear in his heart. This kind of behavior was only confirming her crime. She, Jing Yunjiao, was reborn. She definitely wouldn't bear a crime that didn't belong to her, even if this matter was so small that it could be ignored. Wait! Jing Yunjiao shouted with a cold face. She walked over and stuffed the money in the old lady's hands back into Jing Tijuan's hands. There's no reason in this world to pay for being bumped into. Chapter 210. The old lady and Jing Taijun were both stunned. Some of the patients beside them also stopped. The old lady was old and weak. She looked like a weakling. Weaklings were easy to sympathize with. She did not have an advantage in this aspect. Little girl, are you trying to bully the old lady? Didn't you go to school? Didn't your teacher teach you to respect the old and love the young? The old lady said. Jing Yunjiao's eyes flashed with a trace of mockery. Old lady, you're not the only one in this hospital. I believe there are still people who saw the truth. Even if everyone thinks that I hit you, fine, I'll just go for a checkup. It's best if it's a full-body checkup. Although it's a little troublesome, I think it's more responsible than a few hundred yuan, right? Jing Yunjiao paused for a moment before continuing. Old madam, I can check every single part of your body, but don't worry, you don't have to pay for it. It's just taking a bit of your blood and tormenting you a bit. If I can't finish it in a day, then we'll continue tomorrow. I'll take full responsibility for this. What do you say? After Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, the old lady's face trembled. I don't want to check, and I don't want your money. I just want you to apologize. The old lady was in a deadlock. Apologize? Sure, but you have to think it through. Jing Yunjiao laughed coldly and spoke in a voice that no one else could hear. After I apologize, if an old man like you really gets hit by a car, then you can't blame me anymore. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. We'll definitely meet again in the future. When that time comes, if I'm still young and don't know any better and accidentally kill someone, then the responsibility wouldn't be too heavy. After hearing this, the old lady could not help but take a step back. Jing Yunjiao's murderous aura was thick. His smile was cold and cruel. It was really scary. The old lady turned to leave. Jing Yunjiao directly reached out and grabbed her arm. He continued to smile and said, Why are you leaving? Aren't you going for a checkup? You just said that I hit you. Don't I have to take responsibility? His hand was slender and looked like he was pulling gently. However, the old lady's face was pale. She felt like her bones were about to break. She stared at Jing Yunjiao with her eyes wide open. However, she saw that Jing Yunjiao's cold smile was still as if he did not do it on purpose. You let go of me, the old lady said anxiously. That won't do. My teacher taught me to respect the old and love the young. He also taught me to take responsibility. If you leave, someone might say that I ran into an old lady and abandoned her. Jing Yunjiao's voice was cold. His strength increased by a few notches. No, you didn't hit me. It was my own carelessness. The old lady was suddenly frightened. She felt that the girl wasn't just trying to scare her. Her gaze was as if she wanted to eat someone. Moreover, she was extremely strong. She felt that if she didn't retreat, this little girl would crush her arm in the next second. Really? In that case, I'm relieved. Jing Yunjiao looked at her deeply and let go of her hand. The old lady instantly left as if she was running for her life. As they grew older, they naturally cherished their lives more than the younger ones. Who would dare to provoke someone over such a small matter? What if the person they met was really a lunatic? He never thought that Jing Yunjiao would use such a method to scare the old lady away. Originally, he wanted to take this opportunity to show off and let Jing Yunjiao let down his guard. Who would have thought that this little girl would not play by the rules at all? When ordinary children encountered such a situation, would they use such a method to resolve it? Don't say anymore, Uncle Jing. I know what you're thinking. However, I hate it when people plot against me. If you're really my biological parents, then I will naturally fulfill my responsibility to support you. However, if you have other ideas, then I won't accompany you. Right now, we still don't know if we're father and daughter, so I don't think I need to fulfill my responsibility as a daughter. Therefore, I'm sorry, but I'll leave first. Chapter 211. Jing Yunjiao didn't wait for Jing Taijun to respond and turned to leave. Her elegant and cold figure made Jing Taijun dumbfounded. He had 3 children and 2 of them were daughters. Those 2 girls were only a few years younger than Jing Yunjiao, but they weren't like her at all. Where's Xiao Yun? When Wang Xinfang came out of the checkup, she saw that her husband was the only one around and asked. She left. Jing Tijuan's face didn't look too good and added, she said that she's not our daughter yet, so there's no need to take full responsibility. Hearing this, Wang Xinfang's eyes widened. How could there be such an unreasonable child? Although the test results wouldn't be out for the time being, now that the other aspects were almost confirmed, Jing Yunjiao should have an idea in her heart, right? How was she like a 16-year-old child? That cold look made it seem like they had a deep hatred. The 2 looked at each other and didn't say much. But when they thought of the money they paid for the checkup, their hearts ached. Since Jing Yunjiao came to Ning City, she naturally had to go to the company. The housing prices in Ning City couldn't be compared to Hua Ning County. Pak Yuan rented a floor of an office building in Ning City, and the area wasn't small. Now that everyone in the company had their own duties, plus the fact that they had just started a business, their enthusiasm was extremely high. These days, all the products of Yuling wine were taken out by Jing Yunjiao from her space. But it wouldn't be long before the factory could support the entire industry chain, so she didn't need to work so hard. At this time, when Pak Yuan and Xiong Jin heard that she had come to Ning City, they were inexplicably excited and even nervous. Even though Jing Yunjiao was still young, her imposing manner had never been weak. Even though the company looked like it was in shape, they were still worried that something would happen to the employees when Jing Yunjiao, the real big boss, arrived. Thus, on this day, the requirements for the employees were even stricter. Everyone originally thought that there would be some powerful client coming to inspect them, but they found out that the person who came in was just a 15 or 16-year-old girl. They were puzzled and even a little confused. In order to avoid affecting the morale of the employees, Jing Yunjiao's identity wasn't strict. In the eyes of the employees, she was just the sister of the general manager, Pak Yuan. Pak Yuan was in his 30s, and his appearance was outstanding, but he wasn't a warm man at all. Because of work, Pak Yuan was even stricter to his employees. Xiong Jin was the same, separating public and private matters. Once it involved business, she wouldn't give face to anyone. These 2 people of them were the company's general manager and the other were the company's vice president. And they were both single. However, the other higher-ups in the company were all selected by Yuan and Jing Yunjiao. Their character was trustworthy, and they wholeheartedly devoted themselves to their work. They didn't have any crooked thoughts. As for the normal employees, even if they had feelings of admiration, they still revered Bai Yuan more. The atmosphere was harmonious, but when they saw Jing Yunjiao, they couldn't help but reveal looks of envy. Xiong Jin and Pak Yuan reported their work in the past few days according to the procedures, without the slightest hint of perfunctory. Jing Yunjiao found that the 2 of them handled everything in the company very well. After listening to these reports, it was already 5 or 6 in the evening. After all, Pak Yuan was a man, so Jing Yunjiao only let Xiong Jin accompany her to walk around Ning City at night. This city shone with neon lights, with some shocking beauty. Chapter 212. Xiong Jin had lived in Ning City for more than 20 years, so she was very familiar with this place. She specially brought Jing Yunjiao to a very good restaurant. It was quiet and elegant, and quite romantic. Yunjiao, have you ever thought about transferring schools? I'm thinking that our company's development will definitely get better and better. If you're in Ning City, it'll be more convenient for you to exchange ideas. Moreover, Ning City's education is much better than Hua Ning County. You don't have any relatives in the county. Xiong Jin said with good intentions. Jing Yunjiao smiled. It's enough to have you guys here in Ning City. If there's really a big matter, you can contact me with a phone call. So let's just forget about transferring schools. Ning City was indeed good, but there were people she couldn't let go of in Hua Ning County. Grandpa Gan, Old Man Shu, Xiao Haiqing, and Su Chu were the biggest gains in her life. As for grades, she wasn't worried at all. Although the learning environment was important, it still depended on the person. She believed that no matter what kind of situation she was in, she would be able to get the best grades. Otherwise, she would have been reborn for nothing. Right, if I remember correctly, you start school the day after tomorrow, right? Why did you think of coming to Ning City at this time? Xiong Jin took a sip of tea and asked puzzledly. She and Pak Yuan often went back to the county. Every time they went back, they would report to Jing Yunjiao about their work. There was nothing to worry about at the company. If it was purely for sightseeing, they should have come earlier. That way, they could have stayed in Ning City for a few more days. Yesterday, when I was shopping with my friends, I met an auntie. She was certain that I was her long-lost daughter, so today I specially came to do a paternity test. Jing Yunjiao played it down. Thinking about what happened during the day at the hospital, she still felt uncomfortable. But fortunately, she had experienced that kind of thing countless times in the Qiao family. Even if the other party was her biological parents, they were no different from strangers. So she didn't feel sad. When Xiong Jin heard this, she was shocked. Paternity test. When she met Jing Yunjiao, she only had Gan Songbai, her godgrandfather, by her side. The old man never mentioned anything about Jing Yunjiao's family to her, but she did ask Pak Yuan about it. She only knew that her adoptive parents were extremely biased and selfish people, causing Jing Yunjiao to suffer a lot in the past. Therefore, every time she saw Jing Yunjiao, she would deliberately avoid talking about family matters. What kind of people are they? Is it good for you? Xiong Jin asked nervously. Although she hadn't spent much time with Jing Yunjiao, she was grateful to Jing Yunjiao from the bottom of her heart. If it weren't for her, she wouldn't have been able to contact Master Tang. Later on, she wouldn't have been able to get a divorce. Her life would have been completely ruined. She respected and cared for Jing Yunjiao. She treated her as her boss, but at the same time, she also treated her as a family member and even as a daughter. In terms of age, she and Pak Yuan were older than Jing Yunjiao by 16 or 17 years. It wasn't an exaggeration to treat her as a daughter. It was just that Jing Yunjiao's personality was mature and steady, so they always overlooked this point. Jing Yunjiao stirred the drink in front of her. After the waiter served a few sumptuous dishes and left, she said, "We just met yesterday. I can't tell if it's good or bad, but I'm a very simple person. If people respect me, I'll respect them tenfold. But if the other party isn't easy to get along with, then I'm too lazy to deal with them." When Xiong Jin heard this, she nodded. Jing Yunjiao's personality was indeed like that. It had to be said that with her temperament, it wasn't easy for her to be taken advantage of in this kind of situation. Even if they were biological parents, after all, they had been separated for more than 10 years. It was still very difficult for them to develop feelings for each other. However, Xiong Jin was still a little worried. From her point of view, she hoped that Jing Yunjiao and the company would be well. But if that pair of parents knew that the young Jing Yunjiao had amassed such wealth, would they not have any greedy thoughts in their hearts? Chapter 213. Yuling Wines was a rising star and had the most advantageous position. Xiong Jin and Pak Yuan were confident that they could make a name for themselves within a year and gain a firm foothold in Ning City's wine industry. Within 5 years, they even had hopes of making Yuling Wines the leader of the entire industry. They had the best wine recipes and didn't have to worry about development at all, As long as the owner of the company didn't have any problems. Yun Zhao, CEO Bai, and I will try our best to contact you through the phone in the future. It's better to be careful during this period of time. Also, even if they're your biological parents, you can't foolishly throw in all your savings before you know what their character is like. Xiong Jin said. Her meaning was clear. She hoped that Jing Yunjiao would continue to keep the company's matters a secret. This was indeed a bit unreasonable, but it was better to be safe than sorry. If the other party was sincere towards Jing Yunjiao, she believed that they wouldn't have any designs on the company. But what if they had other intentions? Those were parents who hadn't lived together before. They couldn't be compared to ordinary parents. Moreover, they hadn't seen each other for more than 10 years. She didn't believe that they didn't have any other children. In comparison, Jing Yunjiao, who had led a wandering life, definitely wasn't as important as the one by her side. What if she suffered because of this? How could Jing Yunjiao not understand that Xiong Jin was concerned about her? Her heart also warmed. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. She wasn't a selfish person. Towards relatives like Gan Songbai, she could unconditionally treat them well. But if they were like Qiao Wei Minute, Jing Yunjiao smiled, a glimmer of light flashing through her eyes. No matter how important blood ties were, they couldn't be compared to feelings. Seeing Jing Yunjiao's calm expression, Xiong Jin let out a sigh of relief. She didn't forget that although the girl in front of her looked young, she was definitely different from those childish children. Her words even carried an invisible authority that could make her feel at ease every time. Oh right, Aunt Xiong, how's the old lady? Do you want me to go see her tomorrow? Jing Yunjiao suddenly asked. Xiong Jin's mother wasn't clear-headed because of the shock. She had been recuperating in the hospital before, but how could Qin Ji Shui really let someone treat her? That was why his condition hadn't improved after so many years. In fact, it was getting worse. It's best if you're willing. My mother doesn't even recognize me now. Uncle Gan went to visit her a few days ago and said that her mind is in a mess. She won't be able to recover in a short period of time. It's best for her to recuperate and then slowly guide her. She also has to pay attention to her daily life. Even the flowers in the house are used to calm her mind, Xiong Jin said. Xiong Jin had some faith in Jing Yunjiao's medical skills. She wasn't very knowledgeable in this area, but she did know that Jing Yunjiao had surprised many doctors before. Moreover, she never exaggerated and always did what she said. She said she wanted to take a look, so who knows, she might be able to cure the old lady. Xiong Jin happily nodded her head in agreement. They chatted for a while eating, and the two of them became more and more harmonious. Just as the two were about to pay and leave after finishing their meal, a woman in a red dress appeared in front of Xiong Jin. She looked at her in surprise and said, Xiong Jin, you're Xiong Jin, right? The other party had long wavy hair and a pair of 10 centimeters high heels. She carried a branded bag in her hand and wore a short red dress. Her figure was enchanting and charming. Jing Yunjiao only felt a pair of large breasts swaying back and forth in front of her eyes, so much so that she felt dizzy. Also, that strong perfume smell made her nose itch uncontrollably. You are. Xiong Jin was a little stunned. She was clearly shocked by this woman who suddenly appeared. Chapter 214. Xiong Jin had left Serene City for so many years, and now she had no friends in Serene City. Some of her old friends had even forgotten about her. Director Xiong, why are you so forgetful? The woman smiled charmingly and continued, a few days ago, I saw a news article saying that Director Qin had gone bankrupt. I didn't believe it at first, but then I found some posts on the internet where Director Qin seemed to be a different person. I almost didn't recognize him, the woman said with a sympathetic face. In the past, we were all so envious of you, Director Xiong. Not only did you have such a big family business, but you also had a filial husband. After you retired, we all thought that you were enjoying life. We didn't expect that you were bullied by that beast in human clothing all these years. The woman kept calling her Director Xiong, which made Xiong Jin remember. You're little Liu? Xiong Jin asked. What little Liu? Director Xiong, I have a name. My name is Liu Danqing. You can call me Miss Liu or Danqing. But don't call me little Liu. It sounds like I'm your errand girl. Liu Danqing rolled her eyes. Who was she envious of the most in the past? Wasn't it Xiong Jin? She had been a spoiled young lady since she was young. After her father died, she naturally inherited the company and even married a handsome and capable husband. Who wouldn't be envious? At that time, Liu Danqing was just a small secretary. Because she had just started working, she kept making mistakes. Xiong Jin often scolded her, making her embarrassed several times. How could a newbie be perfect at work? This Xiong Jin would make a big fuss out of nothing, as if she was getting her salary for nothing. Both Xiong Jin and Jing Yunjiao felt the hostility from the other party. Xiong Jin remembered, but she was also a little surprised because the Liu Danqing in her memory was not like this. At that time, she was pure and pretty. She had chosen her to work by her side because of her clean temperament. However, Liu Danqing was a little impetuous at that time, so she deliberately taught her a few times. But when she thought of the past, she really didn't feel that she had done anything wrong to Liu Danqing. One had to know that with her status at that time, even if she wanted to hire a small secretary, she should have hired someone with enough experience. Moreover, the treatment of being her secretary was better. It could be said that she had promoted Liu Danqing. I've offended you, Miss Liu. But please make way, we're leaving. Xiong Jin thought for a moment and said. She didn't want to stir up trouble, especially in front of Jing Yunjiao. What's the hurry? What did you guys eat today? Do you want me to pay for you? Liu Danqing's posture was strange and coquettish, and her voice was coquettish. No need, Xiong Jin said. Director Xiong, you don't have to be so courteous. I know you're not doing well right now. I heard that Qin Ji Shui swindled your company and money. You've stayed at home for so many years and haven't gone out to work, so I'm sure you don't have any savings on you. We used to know each other, so I can still afford to treat you to a meal, Liu Danqing said as she dug into her bag, looking like she was about to pay. But after a while, she frowned again. Aya, I only have a card. I originally wanted to give you 200 yuan to solve your livelihood problem. Xiong Jin's expression did not look too good. It wasn't that she didn't understand this kind of woman. She just felt that she was more capable than her now, so she wanted to show off in front of her to satisfy her vanity. Chapter 215. Xiong Jin glanced at Liu Danqing, shook her head, took out her wallet, and paid the bill. Thank you for your kindness, but I'm not so poor that I need charity. In addition, maybe you talked too much just now, the makeup on your face is cracked. Liu Danqing was stunned, and quickly took out a mirror to look. Seeing that the makeup on her face was still the same, she suddenly snorted, and subconsciously blocked the way of Jing Yunjiao and Xiong Jin. Pretending to be fat, General Manager Xiong, you still look charming and beautiful. It's okay if you don't want me to help you. I know a lot of big bosses, how about I introduce them to you? Oh, by the way, do you still remember General Manager Wang? A few years ago, he pursued you but was rejected by you. I believe that if he sees you now, he will definitely be interested. You can take the opportunity to make a fortune. Liu Danqing pestered. Jing Yunjiao didn't see many people before, so when he saw this kind of woman, he was more curious than angry. Although this Liu Danqing was dressed in famous brands, she looked tacky when she wore them, like an ancient prostitute. She wasn't very tall, but she was wearing such high heels and had so much makeup on. She wasn't young anymore, but she still pretended to be a young girl. It made people feel a little nauseous when they heard it. At this time, Xiong Jin was a little speechless. Was her temperament now like a miserable woman who could only rely on men to help her? Liu Danqing said, and had already found General Manager Wang's business card, and handed it to Xiong Jin with a sympathetic face. At the same time, a man appeared behind Liu Danqing. His appearance was a little greasy and his beer belly was very ugly. He reached out and held Liu Danqing's waist as he called out, "Little darling," causing goosebumps to appear all over Jing Yunjiao's body. "Baby, why don't you introduce them? Who are these two beauties?" The man stared at Jing Yunjiao with a surprised face. These days, it was not easy to find a pure little girl. The one in front of him, even in terms of appearance, could be called the best in the world. Birds of a feather flock together. When the man saw that Jing Yunjiao and Xiong Jin were hanging out with Liu Danqing, he naturally categorized them together with Liu Danqing. His gaze was lustful and unbridled. "You're so annoying. Are you going to fall in love with that old thing? I just wanted to go back and give you a surprise." Liu Danqing leaned in the man's arms and said coquettishly. He was gloating inwardly. In the past, the people who pursued Xiong Jin were basically some rich young masters. They were rich and good-looking. At that time, she was very jealous when she saw so many people sending flowers to Xiong Jin every day. But now, her mood was better. Although it was a different starting point, in the end, wasn't Xiong Jin the same as her? She even had to sell her body. Her so-called self-esteem and modesty instantly crumbled in the face of money. At this time, Xiong Jin was also disgusted. She had not encountered this kind of thing for many years. The man stretched out his meaty hand towards Jing Yunjiao and said, "Little girl, shall I take you out to play?" Xiong Jin raised her eyebrows and looked at the man with a mocking smile. The other party was still a little surprised by Xiong Jin's reaction. Suddenly, a catcher sound came from his outstretched hand. A wave of pain instantly enveloped his whole body. It was as if his fingers were broken. He immediately howled. Xiong Jin was amused. This person dared to touch Jing Yunjiao? She knew that Jing Yunjiao was definitely violent enough to deal with this kind of person. Every time she saw it, her admiration for Jing Yunjiao increased by 1 point. Chapter 216. Jing Yunjiao rubbed his wrist and sighed. He said to Xiong Jin, "Director Xiong, I'm still underage. It's better if we don't stay in such a foul place." Liu Danqing was stunned. Why did this girl call her Director Xiong? She called her Director Xiong out of respect, but in fact, she was deliberately provoking Xiong Jin to mock her. But this little girl, the next second, Xiong Jin nodded and accompanied Jing Yunjiao out. They got into a car. This car belonged to the company. It was convenient for business meetings. Although it wasn't very expensive, it was at least 1,000,000 yuan. Liu Danqing was a little dumbfounded. The car of the man beside her was only worth a few 100,000 yuan. He was only a company manager and not a big boss. But in her eyes, this was considered good. After all, she wasn't young anymore. It was impossible for her to find those young and promising people. She knew that. But what was wrong with Xiong Jin? Wasn't she cheated of her money by her husband and they were divorced? How could she have such a good car? Why are you in a daze? Hurry up and send me to the hospital. Liu Danqing was staring blankly at the back of the car when the man beside her roared. After Liu Danqing sent the man to the hospital, she became more and more upset. In the end, she turned on the computer and entered Xiong Jin's name. She thought that there wouldn't be any relevant information, but unexpectedly, Xiong Jin's introduction appeared on the interface. When she saw it, she was shocked and embarrassed. No wonder Xiong Jin didn't even look at her when she said so much. It turned out that her life wasn't as bad as she thought. She was as dazzling as she was 10 years ago. The deputy director of the new company, Yu Ling Wines. It was just a few words. The rest of the momentum was about Yu Ling Wines. But these few words were enough to make her unable to raise her head. She looked at the company's situation again and realized that it hadn't been established for long, but the market's expectations were surprisingly high. Moreover, the expert's evaluation was very good. It seemed to be the new wine company with the best prospects at the moment. Liu Danqing suddenly regretted. If she hadn't said those presumptuous words and was polite and respectful to Xiong Jin, would she have been able to work by Xiong Jin's side like 10 years ago? Although she would suffer some setbacks sometimes, to be honest, the treatment was still very good. And it would definitely be much better than her current job. Liu Danqing was so jealous that she tossed and turned all night. However, for Jing Yunjiao and Xiong Jin, this was just a small interlude, and they forgot about it in the blink of an eye. In the sanatorium, Jing Yunjiao finally met up with Xiong Jin's mother. After checking her pulse and other aspects of her condition, she was already 120% confident that she could cure her. However, she still needed to massage her acupoints for a period of time and then take some medicine. It would be impossible for her mother to fully recover by today. Jing Yunjiao wrote a prescription and taught Xiong-jin the massage method. Only then did he feel at ease and return to Huaning County. The summer vacation was over. On the first day of school, Jing Yunjiao, Su Chu, and Gan Jinchen walked to school together. As soon as they left the neighborhood, they saw a figure anxiously waiting for them. Wang Xinfang walked over with a face full of concern. "Xiao Yun, your dad and I know that you've started school, so we specially bought you a new set of clothes. I originally wanted to send it to you, but I don't know which unit you live in." As she said that, she stuffed the bag into Jing Yunjiao's hands. Su Chu and Gan Jinchen looked at Wang Xinfang in surprise. They felt a little strange. Could this be Qiao Weimin's new wife? But how could Qiao Weimin be so nice as to be willing to buy clothes for Jing Yunjiao? Could it be that he wanted to take the opportunity to blackmail Jing Yunjiao? Chapter 217. The two cast a surprised look at Jing Yunjiao, but Jing Yunjiao handed the clothes back. "I can't accept this, take it back and return it." She wasn't being polite to Wang Xinfang, but she didn't like to take advantage of others. If they had already confirmed their relationship, it would be normal to return the favor. Then she might accept Wang Xinfang's good intentions, but the problem was that the test results weren't out yet. Wang Xinfang's face turned pale, and she looked like she was about to collapse. "Xiao Yun, Mom doesn't have any other intentions, I just want to fulfill my responsibility as a mother. I haven't bought you a single piece of clothing in all these years. You're at the age where you should dress up well, Mom just wants you to be happy." After speaking, Wang Xinfang took out the clothes from the bag and gestured to Jing Yunjiao. "Look at how beautiful this dress is. Xiao Yun, your skin is white, it will definitely match." The dress was pink with lace. This kind of sweet style didn't match Jing Yunjiao at all. With Jing Yunjiao's appearance and figure, she could wear any style of clothing, but her temperament was very cold. Even if it looked good in this dress, it wouldn't make people feel comfortable. If this dress was worn by Su Chu, perhaps it would bring out the best in each other. "Aunt Wang," Jing Yunjiao called out, and then said, "The style of your dress is quite cute, I believe your second daughter can wear it, so you should take it back. It's getting late, I still have to go to class." No, I bought this for you, you have to accept it." "Xiao Yun, don't worry, your two sisters definitely won't fight with you for anything, I'll talk to them nicely. When the test results are out, you can move back home on Saturday and Sunday. The family has prepared a separate room for you, you won't be wronged." Wang Xinfang hurriedly explained, and then said, "I know your grades are good, you're the most promising one in our family, study hard, I won't hold you back." After speaking, she stuffed the clothes back into Jing Yunjiao's hands, turned around, and ran away. That anxious figure seemed to be afraid that Jing Yunjiao would chase after her. Su Chu and Gan Jinchen were stunned. "Cousin. What does she mean? Why did you claim to be your mother?" Su Chu pointed at Wang Xinfang's back and asked. Gan Jinchen immediately pulled Su Chu. "Yunjiao, are you okay?" Even a fool could see that this woman and Qiao Weimin were not family. It was very likely that they were Jing Yunjiao's biological parents. No wonder Xiao Haiqing stammered when she called them yesterday. It turned out that she was worried that Jing Yunjiao would be in a bad mood because of his biological parents. "I'm fine." Jing Yunjiao shook his head and turned back to the house to put the clothes away for the time being. If she didn't accept this thing, Wang Xinfang might come to the school later. She didn't want to make things more troublesome. Actually, Wang Xinfang and Jing Taijun were most likely related to her by blood. However, she didn't know why, but she didn't have much enthusiasm for them. She even subconsciously wanted to keep a distance from them. Jing Yunjiao sighed and went to the school. She didn't say anything along the way. A new semester, a new grade, but for Jing Yunjiao, there weren't many changes. Arts and science had already been chosen before her rebirth, and the first half of the first year of high school had been redivided into classes, so it was still the same. The students hadn't changed, and the homeroom teacher hadn't changed. At most, a few teachers had changed. Jing Yunjiao was still teacher Chi's class representative. As soon as she arrived at the school, she was ordered by teacher Chi to inspect her homework. However, what surprised Jing Yunjiao was that she didn't know when a love letter and breakfast were placed in her drawer. Chapter 218. Ever since Qiao Hongye dropped out of school, Jing Yunzhao's bad reputation had almost become a thing of the past. No one mentioned it anymore. Her grades were good and she looked good. Usually, there would be boys appearing at the door of the class, but there weren't many who dared to pass love letters so openly. Jing Yunzhao didn't react at all and casually placed the letter and breakfast on the table. Xiao Haiqing saw it and immediately snatched it. Wow! Yunzhao, your charm is really good. You received a love letter on the first day of school. This person must have been secretly in love with you for a long time. Xiao Haiqing shouted. She purposely raised her voice, mainly because she wanted to see Jing Yunzhao's embarrassed expression. However, Jing Yunzhao only raised her eyebrows and glanced at her. She was completely calm, as if this matter had nothing to do with her. Are you okay? You're not happy even after receiving a love letter? I'm going to suspect your gender. Xiao Haiqing said in surprise. She had also received love letters before, but they were usually written by bad boys because those shy boys didn't dare to get close to her. It was as if she was a virus that was contagious. Or it could be said that those people were afraid that she would beat them up if she was unhappy, so only those who could endure a beating dared to express their affection for her. But even if she was usually confident and bold, when she received a love letter, she would still be a little happy. Rejecting was one thing, but enjoying this kind of favor was another. She was a tyrannical flower, but no matter how tyrannical she was still a flower. Xiao Haiqing was beaming with joy, as if she had discovered something amazing. Jing Yunzhao was speechless and choked. There's no problem with my gender. Not everyone will be happy because of this kind of thing. In her previous life, she had lived to the age of 20. She was a real adult. Even if her body was still young, her heart was mature. How could she be excited because of a little boy's love letter? You're really boring. Let me help you see what's written in this love letter. Xiao Haiqing smiled mischievously and shook the love letter with a face full of curiosity. She didn't want those crooked people to covet their Yunzhao. A love letter represented a person's words and taste, so they had to be carefully examined. After Xiao Haiqing finished speaking, she saw that Jing Yunzhao did not refuse, so she opened the envelope. It was a white envelope with a red heart drawn on the seal. In the eyes of the two of them, it was a little childish. Looking at the letter again, it was pink. Xiao Haiqing pursed her lips. The color that did not match Jing Yunzhao the most was pink. The other party was definitely stupid. Xiao Haiqing opened it and the corners of her mouth twitched. Su Chu and Gan Jinchen behind her couldn't help but lean forward. Suddenly, they all had strange expressions on their faces, as if they had eaten a pile of dead flies. When Jing Yunzhao saw their expressions, he became curious. After a while, Xiao Haiqing looked at him sympathetically and began to read. Dear Zhao forgive me for my rudeness, because I feel that I really can't bear to miss you these days. I miss your pair of eyes that are as gentle as water, I miss your tender and alluring little lips, and your pure white skin that is so smooth and tender. Your gentle appearance floats in my mind every day, making me unable to extricate myself. I know that you must like me too. I can often feel your gaze on my body, and every time it makes my heart beat faster. Everything about you is so precious. I want to protect you in the palm of my hand, deep into my bones. There's not a moment when I don't want to hug you tightly in my arms and rub you fiercely. When he said this, Jing Yunzhao's face darkened. Chapter 219. Xiao Haiqing felt a little guilty. The first part of the love letter wasn't that disgusting, but the part that they couldn't accept was at the end. You don't have to read it. Jing Yunzhao took the love letter with a gloomy face and continued to read it. In the dark night, I fantasize about your pair of sparkling eyes, making me tense up all over my body, making me unable to release my emotions. I want to carve my love for you on my body, caressing it every day and night. You're so beautiful, so outstanding, so tempting. I've dreamt countless times that I have you by my side, under my body, in my heart. Your voice tugs at my heartstrings, making me go crazy for you. Rather than a love letter, it was more like a lewd and obscene image. Xiao Haiqing was still a little playful a moment ago, but now she was completely enraged, let alone Su Chu and Gan Jinchen. In their hearts, Jing Yunjiao was clean and cold. Her character was like a person standing on the edge of a cliff, so quiet that she didn't attract dust. However, this so-called love letter was so disgusting that it made them want to vomit. Holding her in his arms and rubbing her wrongly, beside her and under her body, it was simply a fantasy. I've read it. There's no signature at the bottom. Xiao Haiqing gritted her teeth and said. If she knew who wrote this love letter, she would beat him up until he was looking for his teeth on the ground. After Jing Yunjiao finished reading it, her embarrassment turned into anger. Rather than saying it was a confession of love, it was better to say it was a humiliation. Moreover, at this age, most people's love letters were pure and beautiful, unlike this one, which was filled with lust and lust. It was impossible for her not to be angry. Jing Yunjiao had already eaten breakfast. She didn't intend to use the food sent by that person. At this time, Xiao Haiqing was even more depressed. She felt that the food made her sick. Without saying anything, she got up and threw the breakfast into the garbage. It's shameful to waste it. God should just strike me to death. Anyway, it's better than being disgusted to death, Xiao Haiqing said. After a while, Jing Yunjiao put away the so-called love letter. She was not stupid. It was useless to hand this thing to the teacher. After all, they did not know who wrote the love letter. In the end, Teacher Qi would at most give a few warnings in class. In the end, others might think that she was too good at tattling or even making a fuss over nothing. As for ignoring it, that was even more impossible. Haiqing, why did you throw it away? I really want to eat it. Jing Yunjiao held his breath for a while, causing his face to turn red. Then, he stared at Xiao Haiqing with an embarrassed attitude. Xiao Haiqing was stunned. She wished she could hang a question mark above her head to express her puzzlement. Isn't that? Xiao Haiqing stuttered, but the moment she opened her mouth, she remembered Jing Yunjiao's personality and suddenly laughed out loud. Oh, I get it. Yunjiao, I didn't expect you to have such a strong taste. Her reaction was not as quick as Jing Yunjiao's. Why did he write a love letter? It couldn't be so simple as to express his feelings of longing, right? Jing Yunjiao's bashful expression made her feel a little uncomfortable, but anyone with eyes could tell that Jing Yunjiao's expression meant like. If that person was from their class, they probably wouldn't just sit by and watch, right? When the time came, wouldn't that person stand up for her? It was just a pity that Jing Yunjiao had to suffer. To make such an expression for such a disgusting thing, it was really a big sacrifice. The only consolation was that Jing Yunjiao's current expression was really too cute. It was the first time she had seen it. Chapter 220. Jing Yunjiao blushed and carefully put away the love letter. Su Chu, who was slow to react, felt wronged. She wasn't as smart as Xiao Haiqing, and she wasn't able to read Jing Yunjiao's mind like Xiao Haiqing. She looked at the two's strange behavior and then looked at her cousin, Gan Jinchen, who didn't care. She was stunned. How could her god-cousin like that disgusting classmate who wrote love letters? It couldn't be true, right? Su Chu was worried for a few classes. When Jing Yunjiao wasn't around, she carefully moved in front of Xiao Haiqing and grabbed her arm to act cute. Xiao Haiqing, cousin can't really like that disgusting guy, right? Xiao Haiqing was amused. Su Chu was really stupid. Gan Jinchen must have guessed Jing Yunjiao's intention, but he didn't explain it to Su Chu. He was obviously teasing her. However, looking at Su Chu's anxious pout, Xiao Haiqing also showed some mischievous interest. Her eyes flashed, and she spread her hands and said helplessly, I can't help it. Yunjiao likes that kind of thing. You don't know, but Yunjiao was always absent-minded in class. If I didn't remind her in old Qi's class, she definitely wouldn't be able to answer the questions. Xiao Haiqing's mouth was full of nonsense. The more she said, the more Su Chu's heart jumped. There was only one word in her mind, and that was, it's over. She knew that her cousin was stubborn and had a strong temper. If she liked someone, no one could stop her. What if her cousin was eaten up by that disgusting hooligan? Su Chu also received a lot of love letters, but those love letters were different from Jing Yunjiao's. They were simple and clean, and never made her feel disgusted. At this time, Su Chu's face was grey. When Jing Yunjiao came back, her eyes were like a poor abandoned animal. She looked at her as if she was hoping that she would stop at the edge of the cliff and turn back to the shore. Xiao Haiqing and Gan Jinchen were very happy. Because of the strong request of these two bad friends, Jing Yunjiao didn't explain. She had to say, looking at Suchu's appearance, her heart was warm and she wanted to laugh. This kind of prank between friends really made people happy. 3 days in a row. Food and love letters could be seen in Jing Yunjiao's drawer each time. It was just that every time, Jing Yunjiao would only look at those breakfasts with pity, acting as if she couldn't bear to eat them and wanted to put them away. Finally, on the 4th morning, Jing Yunjiao saw the name in the love letter. Looking at the name, the corner of Jing Yunjiao's mouth curved into a sinister smile. So the grandson who had been disgusting her for the past few days was him. What a surprise! Xiao Haiqing was more concerned about this matter than her. When she saw the name, she immediately became angry. If it wasn't for Jing Yunjiao holding her back, she would have rushed up and kicked him. "I'll do it myself," Jing Yunjiao said coldly, making people feel an inexplicable chill. God knows how nauseous she had been these past few days. Because of these unrestrained words, her appetite hadn't been very good these days. Moreover, she felt weak all over if she didn't do anything to vent her anger. Now that this piece of shit had delivered himself to her door, if she didn't beat him half to death, would she be able to relieve the anger she had been suppressing for the past few days? Early in the morning, Jing Yunjiao's face was colder than the cold winter sun. After putting away the love letter as usual, she stood up with a book that wasn't heavy. She turned around and walked back. Chapter 221. Jing Yunjiao took one step at a time. Her thin and weak yet arrogant figure was extremely eye-catching. Her lips were lightly pursed, as cold as usual, but there seemed to be a faint smile on her face. Although this smile made people shudder, in Jiang Xia's eyes, it was something to be happy about. The first love letter was actually just to test Jing Yunjiao. The words used in the letter were all found on the internet when he wrote a love letter to Qiao Hongye. He felt that only those words would be enough to express his feelings towards Qiao Hongye. Since no one would know anyway, he changed the name of the letter and secretly sent it to Jing Yunjiao. He didn't hold much hope, but he didn't expect Jing Yunjiao to be so easy to coax. After that, he carefully copied a few more. He was even a little excited, so the words he used became more daring. Anyway, Jing Yunjiao was an emotional person. The more explicit the words, the more she would like it. Sure enough, the truth was as he expected. Today, he finally wrote his name on it. Yunjiao. Jiang Xia gently opened his mouth. He felt that Jing Yunjiao must have used the excuse of asking him for advice to get close to him. Qiao Hongye dropped out of school and he Jiaxi returned to Ning City. Therefore, Jiang Xia's deskmate was now Tang Zihua. Tang Zihua looked gentle, but in reality, his personality was very cold. He usually didn't care about Jiang Xia, but now that he saw Jing Yunjiao staring at Jiang Xia, he couldn't help but feel strange. Tang Zihua, move aside first, Jing Yunjiao said. Tang Zihua's health wasn't good. If he was affected, she would have to think of a way to treat him. The boy was stunned. He looked behind her and saw Xiao Haiqing teasingly crooking her finger at him. Only then did he get up in confusion and walked over to Xiao Haiqing and the others. Xiao Haiqing, stop her. Cousin can't be going to confess to that disgusting man, right? Suchu was anxious and said in a low voice. Tang Zihua was shocked when he heard this. What's going on? Disgusting man? Was she referring to Jiang Xia? That's impossible, right? With Jing Yunjiao's personality, how could she fall for someone like Jiang Xia, who he thought was useless and even somewhat thick-skinned? All right, don't say anything and don't ask anything. Just watch, Xiao Haiqing said with a smile. After saying that, they stared at him with their eyes wide open. Yunjiao, please sit down first. Jiang Xia's attitude was very friendly. Jing Yunjiao hadn't spoken to Jiang Xia for quite some time. If it wasn't for his memories from his previous life, he would have forgotten about this person. Jiang Xia was pursuing her. Hihi, how could she not know whose idea it was? No matter if it was the previous life or the current life, Jiang Xia's infatuation with Qiao Hongye had never changed. In the previous life, Qiao Hongye only needed to say one word and Jiang Xia would pester her relentlessly, pretending to be a good man. In this life, his perverted index had actually evolved. They were still in school, yet he could still be so savage. "You, stand up." Jing Yunjiao did not listen to him and said coldly. Jiang Xia frowned in dissatisfaction. But the little bit of expectation in his heart still encouraged him to do as Jing Yunjiao said. Jiang Xia's sunny smile looked extremely warm, but just as he stood up from his seat, he saw Jing Yunjiao holding the textbook in her hand and raised her hand to slap him. Pa. The textbook directly slapped half of Jiang Xia's face red. Using her hand? Jing Yunjiao sneered. She disliked dirty things. She didn't deal with Jiang Xia before because she felt that he was ordered by Qiao Hongye in the previous life. In reality, there wasn't any deep hatred between them. Although she hated him, he didn't have the time to do anything to let her down. So even if he still came looking for trouble in this life, she only punished him lightly and didn't target him like she did Qiao Hongye. But there was a limit to this kind of tolerance. Chapter 222. As soon as Jing Yunjiao made his move, the crisp sound of the slap attracted the attention of all the students. Each and every one of them was shocked beyond words. "Jing Yunjiao, are you crazy?" Jiang Xia shouted. He felt a burning pain on his face and his ears were ringing. "Pa." Jing Yunjiao raised his hand and slapped him again from another angle. In an instant, the red marks on both sides of his face were symmetrical. Jing Yunjiao raised his head and snorted coldly, "You'll know in a moment whether I'm crazy or not." After she finished speaking, she slapped Jiang Xia's face like a torrential downpour. The book wasn't thick, but it was extremely painful. The problem was that he was currently trapped in his seat by Jing Yunjiao, so he had no way of getting out. Not long after, a bang sound was heard. Jiang Xia fell to the ground sullenly. He screamed and tried to crawl under the table, but just as he stretched his head out a little, Jing Yunjiao dragged him back like a mouse. Immediately, he was pushed against the wall and all the books on his table were thrown at him. Jing Yunjiao's violent behavior made all the students in the class dumbfounded. Their class hadn't been established for long, but this wasn't the first time they saw Jing Yunjiao hit someone. Who was it last time? It was Jing Yunjiao's adoptive father and Qiao Hongye. They were beaten so badly, but those two deserved it. But what did Jiang Xia do? He actually provoked Jing Yunjiao to this extent. If this continued, wouldn't he be beaten to death? The class monitor, Qi Daong, hurriedly ran over to mediate the fight, but unfortunately, he was pulled over by Xiao Haiqing. "Class monitor, are you sure you want to go? I promise you, our Yunjiao is too angry right now. He might not be able to recognize you. If you go in, we won't be able to save you." Xiao Haiqing reminded him with a smile. Qi Daong couldn't help but shiver. He swallowed his saliva and said, "Jing Yunjiao, is there a problem with his mental state? Could it be that he would act up regularly?" This was too frightening. Look at how badly Jiang Xia was beaten up. No. Class monitor Qi Daong immediately shook his head. Now wasn't the time to be tangled up in this matter. Qi Daong glanced at the pitiful Jiang Xia, then looked at the fierce Jing Yunjiao. In the next second, he ran towards the office. At this moment, Jiang Xia's face was already swollen beyond recognition. Blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. He was already in a daze. He used to be quite handsome, but his original appearance was nowhere to be found. Jing Yunjiao did not hold back at all. Every punch and kick left Jiang Xia unable to endure. In less than 2 minutes, Teacher Qi rushed over with a group of people. He was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. When he saw this scene, he almost fainted. Of course, although he was a teacher and was worried about Jiang Xia, as an elder, he was even more worried about Jing Yunjiao. Even if she continued to go to school in the future, there would definitely be a stain on her record. "Stop! Jing Yunjiao, stop right now!" Teacher Qi roared. Because he used too much strength, he coughed a few times. When Jing Yunjiao heard Teacher Qi's voice, she stopped. She stepped back, took out a tissue from her bag, and wiped her hands and shoes. She looked like a psychopath who had just killed someone and was obsessed with cleanliness. It was simply hair-raising. Teacher Chi panted a few times. Jing Yunjiao walked forward and said, "Teacher, don't be angry. I'll cooperate. Whatever you say, I'll do it." Before she took action, she had to think of a way to protect herself. So what if she beat someone up? Jiang Xia asked for it. He was still gasping for breath. Moreover, she would at most make him suffer a little, but she wouldn't hurt his internal organs. She wasn't stupid enough to push herself into a fire pit. Chapter 223. From Teacher Chi's point of view, it was as if he had only seen the real Jing Yunjiao today. As her class representative, Teacher Chi had paid quite a bit of attention to this little girl who had no parents to care for her. However, every time he paid attention to her, he felt very gratified. This was because Jing Yunjiao was very sensible and well-behaved in school. Although she was estranged from many of her classmates, she still had her own circle of friends. She never caused trouble, and although her grades were good, she was not inflexible. However, after seeing her today, this Jing Yunjiao's personality was the complete opposite of her appearance. She was thin and weak and looked very fragile. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would never have believed that Jing Yunjiao was the one who did it. "Jing Yunjiao, what happened to you?" Teacher Chi said angrily. "Cooperate?" At this point in time, was this a problem that could be solved with cooperation? Jiang Xia was beaten up like a pig's head, and the Jiang family would definitely know about it. When that time came, would they let her off? "Teacher Chi, I wouldn't hit someone for no reason. In the past, there were so many people spreading rumors about me, and I could still tolerate it. Now that I'm so ruthless towards Jiang Xia, it's enough to prove that Jiang Xia did something that I couldn't control. Since he's already like this, Teacher Chi, I'll have to trouble you to contact the Jiang family. If there's any responsibility, I'll bear it." Jing Yunjiao stood straight, her voice crisp and her attitude decisive. When Teacher Chi heard this, he was so angry that his beard curled up. What should I say? Sai, send Jiang Xia to the infirmary first. Jing Yunjiao, come with me, bear the responsibility. With such a serious injury, compensation was a given. In addition to compensation, the Jiang family would definitely ask Jing Yunjiao to drop out of school. Otherwise, how could they appease their anger? Teacher Chi was fuming. He was already thinking about how to talk to the Jiang family later. If Jing Yunjiao was expelled, it would be a pity. Jing Yunjiao followed Teacher Chi to a place outside the classroom where there was no one else. Teacher Chi then said, "Tell me clearly, why did you beat someone up?" "It's not a big deal, it's just that Jiang Xia disgusted me," Jing Yunjiao replied. "Don't tell me all this nonsense. I want to hear the real reason. Jiang Xia wasn't your deskmate, and he didn't do anything to you. How could he disgust you? Do you have any evidence?" Teacher Chi asked again. "Teacher Chi, I naturally have evidence." Jing Yunjiao took out one of the love letters. The content of this love letter was the least overboard of the three, but when Teacher Chi saw it, his face turned ashen. Teacher Chi was already old. He was a serious person, and his personality was inevitably a little traditional. He had always disliked this kind of young romance. If it was outside the school, he would not be too disgusted, but in this school, Teacher Chi absolutely could not tolerate it. Therefore, when he read the contents of the love letter, he was so angry that he wanted to crawl into a hole and hide his face. This was his student. At such a young age, she actually wrote such explicit things. He had collected many love letters over the years, but this was the first time it was so serious. Fight. She deserved to be beaten. Teacher Chi was so angry that his hands were trembling. "Keep it well. When Jiang Xia's parents come later, take this out. The Jiang family should also want to save face. Take this love letter and have a good chat with them." Teacher Chi could not be too explicit. If Teacher Chi had some sympathy for Jiang Xia a second ago, then at this moment, he could not wait to throw this shameless thing out of the school. Chapter 224. Teacher Chi also knew that the world was becoming more and more open. He couldn't possibly use the old rules to restrict these students. But this Jiang Xia was too much. If the Jiang family didn't give up and insisted on finding trouble with Jing Yunjiao, then as a teacher, he had the right to prevent students like Jiang Xia from continuing to stay in the class. "Thank you, teacher," Jing Yunjiao said sincerely to Teacher Qi. Although she didn't have good luck with her classmates, she had good luck with her elders. So what if she didn't have parents? She received a lot of benefits. Teacher Qi sighed and went back to inform the Jiang family's parents. Jiang Xia was sent to the infirmary while Jing Yunjiao continued with her lessons. After one lesson, a couple appeared at the entrance of the classroom. At this time, Jing Yunjiao was also called out. Jing Yunjiao had just stepped out of the classroom when the man raised his hand to slap her. Jing Yunjiao's gaze turned cold and he directly clamped down on the man's wrist. Subordinates should follow the example of their superiors. I finally know why Jiang Xia is like that. The man obviously didn't expect Jing Yunjiao to be so righteous. His expression became worse and worse. Jiang Xia's mother was a beautiful woman. She gave people a feeling of arrogance. "I've heard my son mention you before. Jing Yunjiao, right? I heard that this student of yours has always been restless. He messes around outside and likes to accuse others. I thought it was just a child playing around and didn't take it to heart. I didn't expect you to be so vicious and beat my son to such a state," the woman said. At this time, Jiang Xia's injury had already been bandaged. He hid behind the couple with a cowardly look. "Teacher Qi, I know this isn't something a teacher can handle. So I've already contacted your head teacher. If you don't expel this Jing Yunjiao today, don't blame me for making a big deal out of this," Father Jiang said angrily. The Jiang family was a relatively wealthy family. Jiang Xia's father opened a tea house in the county. The environment was tranquil, so the business was pretty good. Jiang Xia's mother opened a clothing store in the busiest commercial street in Huaning County. Although it wasn't a big business, the annual income wasn't low. In the tea house opened by Father Jiang, there were usually some big shots who liked peace and quiet who would go to take care of business. Over time, he also got to know quite a few capable people, so when he spoke, he was very confident. Jing Yunjiao let go of his hand, but at this time, he just calmly watched all of this. Since the dean was coming, he would just have to wait. After a while, the entrance of Class 1 became lively. The director was worried that it would cause a bad influence, so he invited them into the office. Even though Jing Yunjiao had no parents and no backing, she was still the undisputed number one in the whole school. She represented the school in all kinds of competitions and won awards. She could definitely be called the face of the school. This teaching director wasn't a muddle-headed person. He still wanted to put the truth first. "Director, what else is there to talk about? Let her parents compensate and then expel her from school." Father Jiang had a stomach full of anger. Teacher Qi's face was stern. "Jing Yunjiao didn't hit people for no reason. According to you, it's reasonable for her to hit people? What kind of teacher are you? You're always biased. I know Jing Yunjiao's grades are good, but our Jiang Xia isn't a bad child who can't be helped. Now that Jing Yunjiao made a mistake, why should he protect her?" Mother Jiang was furious. Jiang Xia's mother's voice was very shrill, so Teacher Qi didn't have a chance to interrupt. He couldn't help but feel a little angry. At this time, Jing Yunjiao took out the 3 letters that she had prepared. Chapter 225. The Jiang family's parents were stunned for a moment. They were a little confused, but when they saw the red heart drawn on the letter and recalled what their son had said to them before, they instantly understood. This was the love letter their son had written to Jing Yunjiao. Isn't it just a love letter? Who hasn't had their first awakening of love when they were in school? If everyone used violence to solve problems like you, wouldn't the school be in chaos? Moreover, our Jiang Xia was just joking with you. Why don't you take a look at your own status? You're just an uneducated child with no parents. How can our Jiang Xia like you? Mother Jiang scolded. Jing Yunjiao wasn't in a hurry. After she finished scolding, she slowly opened her mouth and said, "It seems like your family thinks that this matter isn't important. All right then, I agree to pay the compensation and transfer schools. However, at the same time, I will upload these 3 letters online and make the truth public. What do you think? Teacher Chi originally thought that there was only 1 letter. Now that he saw 3, he was even more annoyed. However, Jiang Xia's parents sneered and said, "Make it public then. Who hasn't written a love letter before? It was just a few confession letters. Could it be that there was something shameful inside?" No matter what, this Jing Yunjiao definitely couldn't be in the same school as their son. Who cares if she transferred or dropped out? Moreover, they could just wait until she transferred and talk to her new school's leader. Who knows, she might be kicked out in the blink of an eye. No. You can't make it public. Just as Jiang Xia's parents were feeling smug, he suddenly shouted from behind them. The corners of his mouth twitched and he instantly sucked in a breath of cold air. "Son, are you okay?" Mother Jiang immediately asked out of concern. Her son was just too kind. She really didn't understand why the school would protect an uncivilized wild girl like Jing Yunjiao. Although she was pretty, she didn't have a good family background or character. Even if she got into a university, she might not have the money to go. Even if she did go to university, she might not be successful. Who knows, she might even become a rich man's mistress. What was the point of nurturing her? Unlike her son, who was good at everything, Jiang Xia waved his hand and said anxiously, "Mom, we can't let her make the love letter public. Son, you are too soft-hearted. If she wants to go public, then go public. What does it matter? Anyway, we just want her to pay up and make sure she can't stay in this school anymore. A rat's droppings spoil the whole pot of porridge. How can mother be at ease if a person like her is in the same school as you?" Mother Jiang earnestly advised. Hearing his mother's words, Jiang Xia's face turned red, not knowing what to do. I can't let others see what I've written." Jiang Xia choked. Father Jiang snorted. "You're a real man. You're just chasing after a woman and writing some words of love. Others won't say anything if they see it." Jing Yunjiao had a mocking look on his face. If it was just an ordinary love letter, people would only admire it or gossip about it. Moreover, Jiang Xia was still young, so no one would take this kind of thing to heart. But Jiang Xia's love letter was different. Not to mention children, even adults wouldn't be able to accept it. The first letter was at least a little taboo and didn't dare to be too direct. But after that, especially the last one, the whole letter was filled with color. It was a long speech and was even more serious than those articles that were banned from reading online. Not only that, his name was signed at the bottom. Jiang Xia's face was ashen. He suddenly grabbed his father's clothes and hurriedly said, "Dad, you can't make it public. If others find out, I'll really be finished." Chapter 226. Jiang Xia's shout stunned the Jiang family's parents. "Son, do you really like this Jing Yunjiao?" Mother Jiang asked in a daze. Naturally, she didn't think that there was anything shameful in her son's love letter. After all, in her heart, her son was modest, polite, cultured, and refined. He had good grades and a good personality. He was even the class monitor in the past. Although he wasn't anymore, he was still quite popular. A love letter written by such a smart and sensible child would definitely be of high standard. Because of this, his parents didn't have any intention of stopping the release of the love letter. But since her son was so against it, it meant that he was either shy or he really liked Jing Yunjiao. But if that was the case, her son definitely wouldn't be willing to let Jing Yunjiao drop out or transfer schools. Jiang Xia's expression was ugly. After holding it in for a long time, he said, "This is what I wrote for her. I don't want others to see it." Mother Jiang had an expression that said, as expected, "Son, if you insist on getting into a relationship at such a young age, I won't object. But you have to open your eyes and look for one, right? Look at this Jing Yunjiao. What redeeming qualities does he have? This kind of person will only harm you," Mother Jiang said bitterly. Father Jiang was also very unhappy. After all, this Jing Yunjiao didn't have any intention of respecting his elders. He was too arrogant and unruly. At this moment, Teacher Chi was so angry that he had a headache. His simply rotten wood that can't be carved. This child's own writing isn't clean, and he actually pushed the blame to Jing Yunjiao. Headmaster, I really can't teach a child with this kind of character. It was said that parents were the first teachers of their children. This was absolutely true. He usually didn't like this Jiang Xia. The main reason was that this child's character wasn't very good. Although his grades were good, he was too arrogant. He seemed humble, but in reality, he was more or less self-righteous. For example, in class, he would often say things that were beneficial to himself. Also, behind his back, he liked to badmouth other students. Not all teachers like snitching students, especially someone like Jiang Xia. His nephew was the class monitor of this class, so he had a better understanding of the situation in the class. When he returned home, he would more or less spill the beans, such as who had a good relationship with whom, and what kind of problems had befallen a classmate. From his nephew, he had heard a lot about Jiang Xia making friends everywhere, but in reality, Jiang Xia had always mentioned the faults of those friends in front of him. One set of words in front of him and another set behind his back. At such a young age, he had already learned to be two-faced. How could he possibly like such a student? At this moment, Teacher Qi was angrily telling the truth. The Jiang parents were confused. Teacher Qi, what do you mean by this? Father Jiang immediately asked. Just take a look for yourselves. Teacher Qi pointed at the love letter and said angrily. After Jing Yunjiao hit Jiang Xia, she made a copy of the 3 love letters in her office to prevent this family from acting shamelessly. She was currently holding the original in her hand and was handing over a copy of the letter to Jiang Xia. The 3 love letters were passed around by the director and the Jiang family's parents. The director's face alternated between red and green as he looked at the letter. He couldn't describe what he was feeling in his heart. The Jiang parents' faces also changed greatly. Mother Jiang shook her head repeatedly. This is definitely not written by my son. Her son was so obedient and sensible. How could he write something like this? Whether it's true or not, you can ask your son. Jing Yunjiao shouted coldly. Jiang Xia's body trembled. When he wrote the letter, he didn't think that there would be such a day. At first, he didn't dare to write his name. However, after confirming that Jing Yunjiao liked it, he felt a sense of excitement in his heart, so he signed his name. But now, it seemed that Jing Yunjiao was purposely tricking him. Chapter 227. Mr. and Mrs. Jiang looked at their son suspiciously. They thought that he would deny it, but now, seeing his guilty and scared face, they suddenly understood. No wonder he wouldn't let Jing Yunjiao spread this love letter no matter what. What do you want? Jing Yunjiao, although my son wrote something he shouldn't have, you shouldn't have beaten him up like this. Mr. Jiang was still very rational. He knew that he couldn't force things at this time. It was best for both sides to reconcile, otherwise, no one would benefit. Mr. and Mrs. Jiang, weren't you scolding me just now? What's wrong? Why are you suddenly being reasonable now? Jing Yunjiao snorted. When we saw Xiao Xia being beaten up like this, of course we were anxious. Jing Yunjiao, both sides are at fault here. Mr. Jiang continued. When Jiang Xia's father first arrived at school, his face was filled with anger. If it wasn't for Jing Yunjiao blocking him with her hand, she would have definitely been slapped by this man. After causing a ruckus, now he wants to solve the problem peacefully. It was too late. Jing Yunjiao wasn't worried about compensation or expulsion. She had a reason for beating him up and held the moral high ground. As long as this love letter was spread, the one who would be criticized would definitely be Jiang Xia. Perhaps others would even praise her for resisting such a malicious pursuit. Jing Yunjiao held the love letter in his hand and flipped it back and forth. With a casual expression, he said, I don't think I did anything wrong. If I were to do it again, I would hit him even harder. I'm still an underage child. Your family's Jiang Xia gave me such a love letter. That's a visual insult. I feel that my soul has suffered a huge blow. From today onwards, I will be disgusted with men because of this. I have a feeling that I don't want to have any contact with men for the rest of my life. Therefore, I feel that this matter has seriously affected my future life. Who knows, I might not even be able to marry and have children like normal people. Oh, right. When he handed over the love letter, my deskmates and friends didn't know that there was such a filthy thing inside, so everyone read it together. They must have suffered a huge blow. Also, with so many people reading this love letter, does this count as spreading obscenity? Jing Yunzhao's words were spoken in a soft and gentle tone, but they were like a 1,000-pound hammer that smashed into the hearts of the Jiang family members. Father Jiang's face was ashen. He knew very well what the consequences would be if others found out that his son had written such a thing. If things got out of hand, the school would definitely not tolerate him. Now was the era of the rise of the internet. Once the news spread on the internet, the impact would be even more serious. In the future, no matter where his son went, he would be guided by others. It would be very difficult for him to find a good school to continue his studies. Moreover, even his father felt that the things he had written were somewhat unacceptable, let alone others. Even if it was normal for a person to express it in such a way, in the eyes of others in the future, Jiang Xia would be seen as a mentally unhealthy child. They might even think that he was a pervert. Therefore, this matter could be either light or heavy. Everything depended on Jing Yunzhao's attitude. Jing Yunzhao, what are you trying to do? Just say it all at once. What will it take for you to return this love letter to us? Father Jiang took a deep breath and tried his best to restrain his anger as he spoke to Jing Yunzhao. At this moment, he had no choice but to beg. Mother Jiang felt the contrast between reality and reality. Her body swayed and her eyes turned red. The gaze she used to look at Jing Yunzhao was filled with hatred and anger. She really felt like she was holding back her anger. It was clearly this wild brat who seduced her son to write such a thing and even beat him until he was beyond recognition. Why was it that in the end, not only did she not receive any punishment, she even had to turn around and beg for forgiveness? You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.